son.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. We are who we are. Let me get that up on the screen so you don't forget who we are. You know, it changes from time to time. I know it. But we're back after a long weekend. It's been 5 days since our last broadcast on Thursday. We have a lot to discuss tonight. A lot of news, a lot of election 2020 stuff that we'll probably be covering tonight. Broadcasting on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope Live. Everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. It's June now, man. It's June.
Coming close to that first Democratic debate.
Same month, man. End of the month, 26th and 27th.
I think it's inevitable that we're going to talk about, 2020 election, considering there's 1,567 Democratic candidates.
1,000. Say it again?
Exactly. 1,567.
1,500.
That's facts.
It's facts.
That's facts.
Facts.
That's the exact number.
Yeah. Might be like a few more by the time we get done with this broadcast.
Man. Maybe not. I think there's a couple that should drop out. Well, actually more than a couple, but...
Should.
Yeah.
Should.
There's more than a couple I think should drop out. But
yeah,
just judging by some recent events that occurred at a particular convention in California, that should be a sign for them.
It should be. I don't think it is. I mean, it's going to come to that realization, later in the month when it hits the Democratic debates, because I'm not sure that they're going to qualify for those debates.
No. Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think they are either. I think they're just there to be buffers, man. They're just there to be buffers and kind of just make I guess increase their own brand. But I just don't see them having like a real impact.
But if they don't have an impact, why does Biden have an impact?
Name and name only.
Yeah.
That's it. Because, he's not really coming with anything strong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's why his campaign right now is scrambling to put together stuff. Because for the most part, he hasn't been making appearances.
That's true.
As many appearances as the other candidates. Right. He kind of came out with this kind of superficial appeal about, defeating Trump and bringing the country together, unity, and
he's
kind
a
of
healer.
This superficial healer type. And so he didn't really have, a distinct kind of policy proposals. And I think that his camp recognizes that they have to scramble to put something together because other candidates do, especially the two actual front runners, in my opinion.
And at the same time that they have to scramble to put together some type of platform, some something together that I guess is what he is as a candidate and what he will try to be as a president. They're still trying to keep him away from the microphones and the cameras too, though. So they're trying to put together something for his platform, but they don't really want him talking too much.
Yeah, because he wasn't at he kind of skipped the California state convention. Mm-hmm. That's just weird to me. Yeah, that's a big state.
It's the most popular state. It's the biggest prize. Primary season.
The biggest prize.
Yeah.
Maybe his ground game will get stronger as the primaries continue, because the Democratic Party's front runner last election had a slight problem with her ground game in certain states that came back to bite her in the butt during the election. So maybe they won't make that same mistake this time, but in this case, it's different. At least Hillary Clinton could put together some sentences. You know what I'm saying? And answer questions succinctly and articulately. Biden, he's worse than we already done said it.
Oh yeah,
we already kind of. I don't want to kick
that
dead horse. Yeah.
But anyway, we are gonna stay with Biden though. But everybody, like I said, thankful that you're with us, joining us in the chat section. We see you out there, Moose Gal, Sharon. Glad that you're with us. If you haven't already done so, please like this stream on YouTube, especially if you're watching YouTube. Just hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. So, again, we're going to stay with Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. On Tuesday, Joe Biden releases climate policy proposal. And it's called the Biden Plan for a Clean Energy Revolution and Environmental Justice. So this plan aims to transition the U.S. to net zero emissions by the year 2050 by investing $5 trillion over 10 years. So the release of this plan did lead to several environmental groups praising it. But before we get to that, Joe Biden did release a sort of campaign ad talking about this climate action policy. So we're going to show some clips from that video.
More severe storms and droughts, rising sea levels, warming temperatures, shrinking snow cover and ice sheets. It's already happening. And science tells us that how we act or fail to act in the next 12 years will determine the very livability of our planet. So today, I'm announcing my plan for a clean energy revolution. It outlines what we have to do to meet this challenge head on and how we're going to get there. We're going to invest $1.7 trillion in securing our future so that by 2050, the United States will be 100% clean energy economy with net zero emissions. By the end of my first term, we will have an enforcement mechanism in place to make sure we stay on track to get there. We're going to make record-breaking investments in research and development in zero-carbon technologies so that America is the engine of the world's clean energy economy, exporting cutting-edge equipment stamped Made in the USA to help other nations reduce emissions and mitigate and adapt. This initiative will create more than 10 million new good-paying jobs all across the clean economy in the United States of America. It's an enormous opportunity. We'll hold polluters accountable for the damage they've caused, particularly in low-income communities and communities of color, not only due to climate change, but the pollution they are pumping into the air that is breathed and the water that is drunk in those communities. For more than 3 decades, I've led in this issue. I wrote one of the first climate change bills ever introduced in the United States Senate. As Vice President, I oversaw the single largest investment in clean energy in our nation's history, over $90 billion. I fought along with President Obama to double the efficiency of our cars, which would reduce our oil consumption by 12 billion barrels, and for a clean power plant that limited carbon emissions from both existing and new power plants. We're the United States of America, and there's not a single thing we cannot do. And the world badly needs us to do it.
All right, so like I said, that was a few clips from his video that just dropped today on Tuesday. Not a bad ad, not a bad ad.
And they said that dropped on Tuesday, right?
It just dropped today?
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Do you think there was anything that kind of maybe expedited that campaign commercial involving the environment? Do you think there was something that...
I mean, possibly. What was it, last week?
Mm-hmm.
Last week, Greenpeace revealed a list of how they were grading the presidential candidates.
Yeah, they
climate.
Mainly Democratic candidates.
Yes. But there were Republican candidates as well. Then Trump and
Trump was at the bottom with an F.
That's
and
right.
right above him,
Right.
was Biden with a D-.
That's correct.
Sanders came in second. Was Inslee?
I believe it was
Inslee came in first.
That's right.
But yeah, Biden was D-, and that was just last week. So this week comes out with a nice little commercial.
Oh yeah. Now, but his team, his campaign team says that this was always the plan, to release something and let it not be, I guess like middle of the road, anything like that. Because the Sunrise Movement, which is an organization that we've talked about before, mainly led by, younger people in this fight for environmental justice and to do something about, the climate change. Last month, they viewed his upcoming plan as something that was not going to be very good. Said, quote, it was going to be a death sentence for our generation. And in Greenpeace, we'll talk about that later. They've amended their words now since the release of this plan. So just judging the video, I noticed a few things though. Like I said, a lot of it is, just your typical. I wouldn't expect it to not be a good campaign video if you just look at it on its surface. But he did include former President Barack Obama, which I believe...
You think he was just name dropping?
Oh, yes. Pictures of them two together. I believe it was
do you think,
savvy move.
Oh, so it was like that was the subtext of the ad. It wasn't just about, his stance on climate change.
No, I think he's going to do as much as he can to bear hug Barack Obama to get all the voters that Barack Obama once had as well. I believe that's what he's going to try to do. If it works or not, we don't know. But I believe this is one of the first steps along that process. So in this plan, though, he does, I guess he does say that he supports the Green New Deal. And like we said, the goal is to, by 2050, get to net zero carbon emissions. Now, again, these environmental groups, they've kind of changed their stance on Joe Biden with the release of this plan. So Sunrise Movement, which before last month had critical things to say about him, they said that Biden's proposal was, quote, a comprehensive climate plan that cites the Green New Deal and names climate change as the greatest challenge facing America and the world, end quote. And then Greenpeace, they said that his plan was, quote, a critical step forward for Biden on the climate crisis, end quote.
So he referenced the Green New Deal, but the timeline between the two is a bit different.
It is.
And as far as like the outlook that they have as far as wanting to see these changes take fruition.
Right. It's not as aggressive.
Yeah, it's not as aggressive. It's like his was like 2050.
His is 2050.
The Green New Deal is what?
2030.
2030.
Yeah. So your other presidential candidates like Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Cory Booker, their outlook and their climate policy, their plan for action, cites that timeline, that 2030.
So if you're going to bring that up, but you're not going to actually meet it, to me, what's the point of bringing it up? What's the point of citing that? What's the point of citing the Green New Deal? Yeah. Are you just citing it as something of inspiration?
I don't know. What's really interesting is that Biden's plan is very similar to Beto O'Rourke's. Mm-hmm. And Beto O'Rourke got essentially clowned for it. He was, I don't know if you could say mocked, but he was criticized for it by these environmental groups.
So,
because of that timeline, because of the 2050 timeline.
So what did they give him a new grade?
As of yet, I don't believe so.
Okay, and as they shouldn't, because why are you just grading somebody on a position or on a proposal? You see what I'm saying? I don't even like that in and of itself. I don't like them kind of even amending their like opinion about them just because of the proposal.
Right.
Like you can't give somebody a grade if they haven't actually performed yet. Just the commercial, just Biden's campaign putting out a commercial, like come on. And there was something else that jumped out at me. That's a part of the proposal and kind of a way to, I guess, encourage Congress and representatives to get on board, and that was not accepting contributions or donations from the fossil fuel industry.
That's correct.
Only issue I have with that is there's many ways to get around that. There's loopholes. I mean, we still have dark money.
Yeah.
You can get it through like that.
Yeah.
They can... Let's say the CEOs can still give you money. They may not, be getting money directly from the industry itself, but the CEOs themselves can still give these representatives money. So there's a way around that.
Yeah, and we've said it before when you're talking about corruption in politics, money in politics, all of this big time funding. We've said it before that as long as these candidates have taken money in the past, does it mean anything that they stop taking it? Do those connections, do they just go away because they stop taking the money? Or does it persist, that connection? I mean, they once took the money, so I mean, is it just like he's going to have to continue getting the money for, to continue doing favors? I don't know if it works like that, So, like I said, his policy, albeit, it's not bad in the substance of it. The timeline is, of course, not as aggressive as many other candidates and leading environmental justice activists want to see put forward. So that's one of the sticking points. A lot of people say about like how we have to address this problem right now. Yesterday, we actually have to address this problem. So if you're delaying that by 20 years, what does it matter what the substance is? The substance wouldn't really matter at that point.
I don't think people understand how, like, close 2050 is.
Yeah. True.
I don't think people understand how close it is.
Yeah. That's not like a lifetime away. That's 30 years.
That's 30 years.
That's not a lifetime, man. So anyway, that's his policy. Like we said, he hasn't been doing a lot of interviews, a lot of, these town halls and, just talking. He hasn't done a lot of it. So I'm sure at some point he's going to, have to field some questions about it, and specifically that timeline, that 2050. Why did you choose 2050 rather than 2030, especially if you say that you support the Green New Deal? It's a contradiction.
Because he ain't going to be here. He probably not going to be here in 2050. I'm dead serious. He's probably not going to be here in 2050.
I mean,
he's probably not going to have to answer for anything in 2050 because he won't be here.
How old is the guy? He's
74.
He's 74.
I could be off. He might be 74. It's either 72 or 74. They're all around the same age.
Right.
Him, Clinton, Bernie, Trump. They're all around the same age. So his ass ain't gonna be here. I know his ass ain't gonna be here.
He's 76.
He's older. 76.
76.
He might not be here in 10 years. So he might not be here in 2030.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna have to actually account for it.
But again, you could say the same thing about Bernie Sanders because he's about the same age as well. Why does he seem to be more caring about what's going to happen with this planet?
Because he always has.
Because he always has. Yeah, that's a good answer. He's always showed that he has.
He's always showed that he has. He was doing things that are popular now, right? That just became popular. He was doing them like 30 years ago. Right. Like his LGBTQ activism. He was doing that when he was mayor. That was almost 40 years ago. Right. He was doing that when he was mayor, when it wasn't popular.
True.
So I'm like,
I thought it was maybe a bit overstated by Biden to say that while he was vice president, he said he oversaw the single largest investment in clean energy. As vice president, you did that? We know that, look, vice president is definitely a position. And they do make appearances. They do make speeches. They do talk on behalf of the president at times. To say,
I was like, okay. I was like, I know where you're going with this. You might as well get there.
To say that you oversaw it, like you. So really, what he's doing is he's trying to join himself with Barack Obama. He's trying to put them right at the hip of one another. But then he's kind of actually trying to take ownership of something that was done under the Obama administration, the Clean Power Bill, and he's trying to be like, yeah, well that was me, that was me, that was you.
See, here's the thing. I'm telling you, I can't wait for these debates, man. I can't wait for these debates and all of these little fibs, as I like to call them, come back to bite him in the butt. And he has a history of doing that. He had to drop out of the presidential race in what year? 1988?
88, I believe.
88.
Yeah.
Because of plagiarism.
That's right.
Also,
because he was making statements that weren't his.
Statements that weren't his.
Yeah, he wasn't attributing it to other people, them making those quotes and those statements.
Recently, there was an article, was a New York Times article that came out that kind of details how he was lying about marching during civil rights.
Oh gosh, that was horrible.
Straight bold-faced lie.
Not just once.
Not just once. So it wasn't just like an off-the-cuff thing.
He said something about how, some people marched. I ran for office.
I ran for office.
That means you didn't march.
That means
though.
you didn't march.
That's a distinction that needs to be made.
Yeah. Some people march. I ran for office, and he even says something like those people that march didn't really care about policy. So he was trying to throw shade at people who marched, and then kind of like give himself a lot of credit. See, I was worried about policy and not marching. So he was trying to find an excuse to get, like, not necessarily out of marching, but he's trying to find an excuse to justify not marching. He's more worried about policy, as if the people who marched weren't worried about policy. That's what the whole civil rights movement was about, was policy change. So I can't wait till these damn debates. So all these fibs just come out.
Oh man.
And this is one of the most recent ones.
Yep, one of the most recent ones. All right, so like I said, we're gonna stay with election 2020. Democratic presidential candidate and Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren made an appearance on Friday morning on radio on The Breakfast Club, and that's hosted by DJ Envy, Charlamagne the God, and Angela Yee. So this is a familiar stop by presidential candidates.
Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala.
Even Bernie.
Cory Booker.
Bernie was there.
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Marion Williamson
was there.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, a lot of people say it's unfortunate that people or presidential candidates have to go on this particular platform to reach people. Mm-hmm. Not me. I mean, like, their audience is big.
It is.
And their audience is, more like more casual.
Right.
As far as politically, it's more like a music a music, radio, broadcast, entertainment. Right. So
it's a good spot to infuse politics in, because it's not a political spot per se.
It's not a political spot, but they do touch on politics.
Right.
And sometimes.
What brings people there isn't really the politics.
Oh no.
But they do stay for that.
But since we're in that time right now, I think it is important that presidential candidates go on these platforms, and for the most part, if you look at the view counts, they're much higher than like their normal broadcast.
Right.
As far as like, I don't know what their like the total number is as far as like listeners on the radio, but when they upload these videos, these interviews to YouTube,
they get a lot of attention.
They get a lot of attention, more attention than their other videos. So I think it's important. But yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren on the program Friday morning and spoke about many different things, and in various situations she appeared very well. She talked eloquently. She has a plan for many things. You could say she has a plan for everything. She knows her stuff. I would say that. Nobody can say that she doesn't know her stuff. There was one moment in this interview, though, that looked a little bit uncomfortable. And there was a part of the interview where she was I guess, being challenged by Charlemagne the God about her past, about her history, maybe some things that she has stated, and actually her status back in the day
as a Republican.
As a Republican.
Yeah, and I think like that's one of those things she needs to get better at.
Yeah,
because she was a Republican recently.
Yes, it's not that long.
It wasn't that long
that was
ago.
In the 80s. That was not that.
It
long
wasn't like it was like in the 70s.
No. So anyway, so this clip is going to show her response to that. So we'll just play the clip and we'll come back and discuss it.
What were your views back in the day? Because if I read correctly, you were a Republican up until the mid-'90s, I think until 96.
Something like that. Nah. I just wasn't politically active. I
So
didn't grow up.
you weren't a Republican?
No, I was registered.
Okay.
But I wasn't politically active. I've always been in the policy end of it, what we need to be doing. I got into the policy end of it in the fight around families who go broke and how to protect those families and what ultimately turned into what I think of as the bankruptcy wars, where credit card companies tried to make it a lot harder for families who had serious medical problems or who had gotten cheated by mortgage companies get a chance to put themselves right.
So what made you registered Republican back then? Because that's the Reagan years, that's the war on drugs.
Like I said, I just wasn't politically active, one way or the other. But I'll tell you, when I got into the fight on bankruptcy, and I looked around and realized that all of the Republicans lined up with the credit card companies, and shoot, half the Democrats did. But the only folks who were willing to stand and fight were folks like Paul Wellstone and Ted Kennedy. And
Was your
that's
family
when
Republican? Is that why? Like sometimes you do it, your family
registered?
registered?
When I say we weren't active, I actually don't even know.
Okay.
I don't even know how
You
they
had
were
a lot of
registered.
confusion back in the day, Miss Warren. You thought you was Native American. You thought you was Republican. Like when did you get on the right track? You got to a fork in the road at some point.
Yeah. A big part of it was when I got into the fights over, you got to make the law reflect our values. You got to have a law that doesn't just work for those at the top, but that works for everyone else.
That was brutal, man. That was brutal.
It wasn't good.
I don't think it was good. I honestly think that was an opportunity for her to come clean about where she was at that time, considering her age, because they're talking about the, I guess, early, mid 80s. But again, she didn't switch till 1996, right?
That was the second term of Bill Clinton.
So she didn't switch until then. So she went through all of the 80s with Reagan and with Bush.
Yeah.
Now, in the 80s, she was in her 40s, early 40s, like late 30s and then early 40s. So you're telling me she wasn't into politics in her 40s now? Come on now. She was a corporate lawyer too. That's how she got her start. That's why she can kind of go after the financial sector so rigorously, because she was a corporate lawyer back in the day. So like she's almost someone who was cultivated in that environment. So she knows best how to fight it. But anyway, the point is, I think that was just a horrible answer. I think that was a cop-out. I was more worried about policy. Well, then you were politically involved, because that's what politics surrounds, policy. It just seems as if she was trying to get away from all those things the Republican Party represented at that time. And just said, no, I wasn't active and trying to claim ignorance. That's why Charlemagne brought up the war on drugs was going on. You didn't see none of that? You know what I'm saying? It was that's why he brought that up. Like, can you at least acknowledge that stuff? Acknowledge that you didn't care about that stuff, even though it was there and you saw it? Don't sit there and act as if you weren't involved. It's just like she's trying to distance herself from that. It just seemed very disingenuous to me, considering she was damn 40 years old, and it wasn't like she was a teenager or in college. That I can understand.
When I first heard the comments, they sounded bad. They sounded bad. I still think they do, but I can kind of attempt to play devil's advocate a little bit. I remember when I first, registered to vote. I remember when I first voted, and I believe I think I was 18 or 20 at the time, I believe. So throughout my 20s, I remember voting. Would I say I was like politically active? I mean, I knew what was going on. I wasn't a part of any groups. Of course, we weren't doing any kind of platform like this or anything like that. Having just personal conversations about the events in the country and in the world.
But does that, like, I guess you're talking about being active in two senses.
Yeah.
Two senses. Like, you're talking about being politically active, like actually putting yourself in a position to, I guess, maybe influence change officially.
Right.
And then you have being active politically in a way that you kind of just mentioned, and just talking with people around you, your friends and your family. Those two things to me are still politically active.
Yeah, and that's why the devil's advocate part didn't last long. Because, again, they were trying to give her outs. Like, was it because of this? Was it because of family? Like, what was going on? They're trying to get at the reason into why she registered, because it was a choice that she would have to make to register Republican. So if you made that choice, you would know, especially for somebody that was in their 40s, like you said. If you were a teenager and maybe your parents took you, hey, it's important to go register to vote, register like us, we're Republicans. Okay, fine. Maybe you weren't politically involved at all. You weren't even thinking about politics, and that was the reason. But if that was the reason, you would know that's the reason. You would be able to communicate that. For you to say, hey, well, we just really weren't that politically active, but I was so politically active that I registered to vote Republican. But I can't tell you why. That just doesn't hold. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense because
not
she was
for a 40-year-old. Exactly.
It would make more sense if she was like a teenager in her 20s in college or just getting out of college. And like you said, they were trying to provide her with an out. Even Charlemagne was trying to like play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Or the opposite side of what our initial thoughts were. Our thoughts are on this, and he was basically trying to throw things out so she could like latch onto it and get out of the situation, but she wasn't. He even said, oh, maybe it was something, you just grew up with. It was just you just practice politics. Your family practices conservative politics. Your family was Republican. She didn't catch it.
She didn't latch on to it.
She didn't latch on. I was like, no, he's giving you an out.
Yeah. That would be an out. Like, yeah, it was my family. My family was conservative. It was just something. I wasn't particularly politically active, so I just, hey, I voted by, I listened to them to tell me, who to vote for. Okay. Nobody would say anything, really. I don't think anybody. But
she was 40.
If this was the 60s, the 70s, we'd be like, okay, as a 40-year-old woman, are you still just listening to your parents to tell you who to vote for? You don't have any knowledge of what's going on as a 40-year-old woman. You have nothing. And you don't even know what's going. You can't tell anybody why in the 80s and in the 90s as well you were registered as a Republican. You can't tell anybody that. That sounds like you're hiding something. To me, it sounds like there were some personal issues. There were some social issues. There were some social issues.
I'm glad you switched that word.
That landed herself in the Republican Party. But when it came to the economy, finances, corruption, consumer issues.
That's what got her out.
That's what got her out.
Out of all the things that were wrong with the Republican agenda at that time, she looked around and said, there's this one issue that I'm kind of sensitive to.
Right.
They're all connected to the banks. And that's what sent her off?
Nothing else.
I think she had to find something. It would have actually been better if she listed those social issues, wouldn't it have?
It would have.
It'd been much better.
Yeah.
And
say that she
and complimented that with
she
kind of her.
She turned it around or something like that. She became somebody. She understood something different. Well, I mean, she's damn 40.
40 years old.
Hey, you could change. You could change. She could at least.
Yeah, we're not holding that against her, but like my problem is like while she is saying stuff like this, while her record, and she is on the record of being a Republican until the 90s, at the same time, people are criticizing Bernie's Democratic bona fides or credentials. Right. That's kind of, to me, what's on the other side of this. Right. Like Bernie Sanders always has to defend himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he's not a real Democrat. From people who support Warren, who basically became a Democrat, let's say, when I was in high school.
Right. And can't tell you
why
she was in the other party to begin with.
Imagine
but just to say that I wasn't politically active.
Imagine if Bernie became a Democrat in 2000. I mean, you know what I'm saying, 1996, or just started caucusing for Democrats and representing democratic principles or what was perceived as democratic
and he came from
liberal.
He came from the Republican
and he
Party.
came from the Republican Party. Imagine what they would be saying about him.
Oh goodness, man.
Because right now they say, oh, he's just trying to split the party.
Yeah.
They
he's
say
that he's going to be the end of the party.
He's going to be the end of the party. They say that now.
Wow.
Because we talk about it with Biden a little bit too.
Yeah.
With how he tends to play footsie with conservative Republicans, and your typical Democratic voter doesn't like kind of judge him for that. But these same people will judge Bernie Sanders for merely running against Hillary Clinton.
It was a bad look.
He's not a real Democrat.
This was a really, really bad look, and I'm not sure that she anticipated this. I wouldn't say that it was contentious. There was another moment in this interview where Charlemagne the God spoke about her claiming that she was Native American and said some remark like she was the original Rachel Dolezal, which is hilarious.
See, he's just trolling there.
Yes, he is. I'm surprised that he actually said that while she was right. And he said that to her.
To her face.
But
if you know Charlemagne, he does that to everybody.
Yeah,
he trolls people to their face.
Presidential candidate. That's ballsy.
Charlemagne's smart.
Yeah.
I know he is. Sometimes he comes out of pocket and he's a bit off base sometimes. But I know I've seen his his donkey of the day. I've seen and it's a kind of a funny name for something he actually intellectually breaks down very good.
He does.
So I know he doesn't actually think Elizabeth Warren is the original Rachel Dolezal. It's funny, but those two situations are not the same. Dolezal knew exactly what she was doing.
They're very different.
She tried to fake like she was black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If she lied about her past.
Right.
In Elizabeth Warren's case, her granddad
She
told
said
her
it
she
was
had
some family story.
Native American ancestry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever. It's not the same. But I just, the only thing I held against Elizabeth Warren for claiming that ancestry was that she never really put herself out there to do anything directly and advocate for indigenous people. That's all. That's why I didn't like it.
Well, she did. Late.
Oh, late. Oh, with the pipeline?
Yeah, she
But
did.
that was real late. That was after everybody done got assaulted and sprayed. And
You should have been one of the first.
Should have been one of the first.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a bad look for Elizabeth Warren, and I think this. I don't know how much this will weigh on people. I just saw, look, you have to take these polls with a grain of salt, but there was one poll just came out recently where she did increase her poll standing to double digits now, 10%, I believe, and she took 1 percentage point away from Bernie Sanders. That's what it looks like. So I'm not sure this is going to mean anything. It could, though. If she can't answer that question, for me, hopefully this is not the last time she's actually asked that question.
Yeah,
because she needs to answer this question in a better way.
And I don't think the question she was asked was, I guess, random. Charlemagne knows. I think actually everybody who hosts that radio show knows exactly who their audience is, and that question was specifically geared to address some things that probably needs to be fleshed out with that audience. And that was her opportunity right there. I don't think that question would have been asked on another platform.
You can't explain that away, her answer. You can't say that it wasn't as bad as what it seemed, because she literally gave no answer to why in her 40s she was registered Republican. That you don't have an answer for that? I'm sorry, that's not gonna fly. I don't. That shouldn't fly with anybody. You would have a blinding loyalty to her. That's it. You would have to have just blinding loyalty to Elizabeth Warren to be okay with the answer that she provided. I don't know. I just wasn't politically active, but I did register Republican. I thought it was important to do that. All right. Staying with this election 2020. This past weekend in California, it was the California Democratic Convention. This event is always very notable. Many presidential candidates do go there to speak about their platform, speak about their vision for the country and the entire world. And, you know, it's with good reason. Again, California is the most populous state. And especially if you're talking about
Democrats.
The Democratic Party,
blue state.
It's a blue state
For the most part.
For the most part, many districts around that state, it's solid blue. So it stands to reason why that would be a hotbed for liberals and especially Democratic candidates, presidential candidates, to go there and, you know, just make their speech.
Mm-hmm.
Not just even your lead-in presidential candidates, but for presidential candidates that have not made up any ground. Like they really aren't making any noise in campaign season.
So you're saying this will be a good opportunity for them to make up ground?
Yeah. To make a name for themselves too. Yeah. For people that don't really know too much about them.
So they can qualify for the debate.
Exactly.
Or just get some more donations, get some more support, get some more volunteers.
Right. This is a very important event if you are one of those lower tiered presidential candidates. So one of those lower tiered presidential candidates, man by the name of John Delaney, who is a former representative, U.S. Representative from the state of Maryland. He's been in the race ever since last year. Hasn't gotten a lot of press. He did have a town hall on CNN, but we have not talked about him many times. You know, of course, there's many things to talk about on this program. We don't have all night, so of course he's not registering. You know, it's just his name isn't really coming up too often. Well, he made the show tonight. He made the show tonight.
Yeah, he put himself on the radar.
He did.
People's radar.
Oh, he surely did. He surely did.
For the wrong reason.
For the wrong reason.
For the wrong reason.
So we have a clip that we would like to show you. And again, it's from this California Democratic Convention. And former Representative Delaney is speaking about Medicare for all.
You might want to provide a warning.
Yeah.
You know, for this, because this is brutal.
It is brutal.
This is brutal.
It is brutal.
No animals were harmed during this
That's true.
situation, we promise.
Yeah, but it is brutal.
Yeah.
For him, it's very brutal. All right, so here's the video.
But we need, as Democrats, to build an economy that works. But it's got to be with smart policies. Medicare for all may sound good, but it's actually not good policy, nor is it good politics. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. 100. We should have universal health care. We should have universal health care. We should have universal health care. We should have universal health care, but it shouldn't be a kind of health care that kicks 150 million Americans off their health care. That's not smart policy.
That was brutal, man.
That was about 45 seconds or so of straight booing.
I watching that made me uncomfortable. One thing though, if I can extract anything redeeming for Delaney out of the situation, it was like he kept his cool. He tried to keep talking over the booze. He smiled.
Uncomfortably.
There was uncomfortably. You know, it wasn't obvious. There was one point where he rubbed his hands together, which you can tell what that means. He's like, oh boy. Damn it.
He had to keep repeating himself.
That didn't go over well.
Universal health care. Universal. It was brutal, man.
Yo, where does he know where he's at?
Obviously, he thinks he's in, I don't know, Kansas, Nebraska.
Honestly,
I don't know where he thinks he is.
I don't even know if that would have mattered because
He's speaking in front of Democrats.
He's
too.
speaking in front of Democrats, and like Medicare for all, that policy polls well amongst all Americans, but especially Democrats. So I don't know, if he could have gone anywhere and said that. You know what I'm saying? I guess he was just trying to set himself apart from the rest of the field in the wrong way.
In the very wrong way.
But yeah, man,
This dude, like, it kills me that he looks like he's masquerading as a Republican. That last line.
As a Democrat?
He's masquerading as a Democrat, but
He's more like a conservative, neoliberal type.
He looks like a real strong Republican in that clip. He looks like a very strong Republican. To parrot a Republican talking point about 150 million people being kicked off health care if Medicare for all was actually established. Why would you be doing that? Why would you parrot some kind of conservative talking point to a Democratic crowd when you have to know that's factually incorrect? The 150 million people, I assume he's talking about the people that have private healthcare insurance, or probably employer.
Employer, I was about to say employer.
Employer healthcare, right? Now, if Medicare for all was actually established in the country, he says that 150 million people would be kicked off of their healthcare. Oh no, he doesn't say their healthcare. He says kicked off of healthcare.
Kicked off.
Kicked off of healthcare.
So, what does that actually mean? If somebody says, "Hey, I was kicked off my health care," what would you think they mean by that?
That means that they don't have health care anymore.
They don't have health care anymore.
Now, is that the case?
That's why you said he sounds like a strong Republican.
Yes.
Because that's talking points a strong Republican would make. Or maybe that's talking points a former healthcare executive who co-founded Healthcare Financial Partners would say. That's what he sounds like.
Who that?
Delaney.
Oh.
Yeah, former healthcare executive.
Well, now it's starting to make sense.
It's starting to make sense. He also has a net worth of like 230 million, so.
That's comfortable.
He is comfortable.
That's very comfortable.
So he's trying to tell us what sound policy, kind of most likely based on, number one, his connection to, not connection, he co-founded.
He co-founded it.
He co-founded Healthcare Financial Partners. And he's trying to, talk about sound policy while he's kind of sitting on his own little personal financial parachute.
And he made that in the private healthcare industry.
He made that in the private healthcare industry, and I guess also he's taking contributions from the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry. Like I think during his 3 terms, he took over $230,000. His terms he served in Congress.
What's the chances that has no bearing on his decision?
Absolutely none. None. The money, that $230,000 he took from the insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry, I don't think that influences his position at all.
You don't think so?
No, man. I've been thinking about that for a while. I'm telling you. I'm thinking about it. I'm just going through my head. I'm like, it can't. There's no way it can't.
No.
There's no way it can't. There's no...
Once he started serving for the people, he put that all behind him.
Actually, what's funny is he's putting it behind him already though. But he's not putting it behind him now.
No, he's not.
That's the thing. He's not even putting it behind him now.
So he's not even faking it.
He's not faking it. He's not like pump faking.
This guy, he didn't stop. He defended his words.
Because of course, the whole booing fiasco went viral.
Of course it did.
And your boy got on Twitter.
Oh, goodness, man.
Sorry.
One of the tweets, and we don't have I don't have the images of the tweets to show. We can read them off though.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
It's sad, bro.
but it goes even further because he made some comments on Monday, and he also made some comments today on Tuesday that we're gonna go into. But on Twitter, he said, quote, "Intolerance to alternative points of view is not what the Democratic Party should be about. Don't we get enough of that from Trump?" Made another comment, made another comment that said, another point. If you are booing Democrats, do you really expect the country to trust what you have to say if you can't listen respectfully to people in your own party? Let's raise the discourse and not fall down to the level of the president. Now, I mean, look, that's rich. You're speaking in front of voters, okay? What do we know about voters? What do we know about crowds in general? If they hear something that they don't like, they tend to boo.
When they hear something they do like, they tend to applaud. It's quite simple.
It's very simple. This doesn't have to do with civility or anything like that. You said something that was rooted in fallacy, and you try to sell that to the Democratic voters. You expect them to just be like, okay,
you know,
yeah.
You know what?
Thumbs
to
up,
me,
man.
to me, you could tell how weak he is in those responses because he's trying to gaslight those people. He's trying to gaslight those people that were at that convention and the people that share the same sentiment. Because now he's trying to act as if like you're booing someone who is a bona fide stand-up Democrat, when really they were just kind of policy oriented and booing his position on a policy. They weren't booing a fellow Democrat. And I think it's just like he gonna talk about trust, right? Like I would throw back at him like, wait a second, how can we trust you? How can we trust
lying on stage?
Not just lying on stage, your background.
Yeah, the background too. No
How
doubt.
can we trust you when you've taken so much money
Right.
From the healthcare industry and the pharmaceutical industry? So he's
It would
talking
be
about
one thing-
trust.
but it would be one thing for us to know that information about his background, but to say the right things. We would still not trust him because we would say, okay, once this guy gets into office, is it going to be the same story? Is he going to have the same platform? Is he actually going to do what he said he's setting out to do? So we probably wouldn't have that trust him for that reason. But again, he's not even faking like he's going to actually do the right thing. He's lying about Medicare for all. He's lying about it, and he's choosing to use a conservative talking point to do that. And you expect voters, Democratic voters, to not respond with booing.
And you see how he tried to I guess kind of manipulate the situation by invoking Trump.
Yes.
As if
We don't want to get Trumpian here.
Trumpian because they're booing a policy that polls well with the American people.
Again, he didn't stop there. So he had a phone interview with The Hill on Monday. And in that interview, Delaney said, if we put socialism on the ballot in 2020, that sounds very risky to me. The lesson from 2018 is very clear. We flipped the House with moderate candidates. You cannot argue that point. The seats we flipped were with problem solvers, not with litmus test ideologues. We win when we put forth problem solvers who run in the center.
Like I said before, he was being booed because of his position on a particular policy.
Yes.
That's it.
That was it.
And honestly, if you read that, what does that sound like?
Well, if I didn't know any better, it sounds like a Republican.
Sounds like a Republican.
Yeah.
And I was like, last time I checked, that didn't win the midterms.
No.
So he's misrepresenting what won the midterms.
Exactly.
So it's like if you read that, like if you read into that statement, it shows how he is self-conscious about being a centrist. Like you poo-poo on litmus tests. You see what I'm saying? He's mentioned litmus tests because he can't live up to it. So of course, he can live up to it if he really wanted to. He just doesn't want it. He doesn't want to live up to it because he wants to still get those kickbacks or whatnot. But you decry litmus tests as being illegitimate when you know you can't live up to them, when you know you don't have anything to stand up for, when you know you don't have a backbone or a spine. So he has to make it as if these litmus tests are unreasonable, which they're not. You know what I'm saying? You have to demonize this litmus test when you know you can't kind of live up to what people expect of you.
There's litmus tests everywhere, though. They're just not really considered litmus tests. Let's say you have a Democrat that doesn't believe a woman has autonomy over her own body. That's going to be a litmus test for voters, because mostly in the Democratic Party, you want a candidate that's pro-choice. Mm-hmm. That's a litmus test. Like him, or for him talking about that, what won 2018 was running to the censor. That's not rooted in facts as well. Healthcare was a giant issue in 2018 in the midterms. It was a giant issue. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Now, there were a number of candidates that did support Medicare for all. A number of candidates that did, and that was a welcome sight. Now, did all of them do that? No, but there were a lot of candidates that might not have like openly supported Medicare for all, but did not say that, no, hell no, we can't go there. Hell no, we can't go there. They might not have emphatically said, I'm in the Medicare for all camp, but they sure enough didn't also say like, nope, can't do it. It's too much, too drastic. Nope, that's socialist. We can't do it. They didn't do that as well. So they might have been like, yeah, we want to get to universal health care. We want to, strengthen the ACA, blah, 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 stuff that, of course, is not left enough for people like us. But from what he's saying, again, he's getting the facts all wrong. He continued to, on Tuesday, it was an interview with Hill TV. He said, quote, I tell the truth, and I think healthcare is too important a topic to not tell the truth about, end quote.
Yeah.
You didn't tell the truth, man. Why are you lying? You didn't tell the truth. Kicking 150 million people off of healthcare. Those are your words. You suggested that with Medicare for all, there would be more people uninsured with Medicare for all than with the ACA. Many more millions of people would be uninsured with Medicare for all.
He might as well just drop out now, because whether he likes it or not, Medicare for all is the litmus test, or is one of the litmus tests for this presidential election. And talked about the midterms. I think that's a carryover from the midterms.
It is.
And if you don't have that in your policy proposal, then what do you have?
Because support for Medicare for all is doing nothing but growing.
Doing nothing but growing. And if you don't have that as like some sort of, I guess, foundation to your platform, along with some other things, then like, how do you think you're going to gain ground in this Democratic field?
His name's not Joe Biden.
And I think, I wasn't sure if it was the first or second quote you read from him. I don't know why it didn't jump out at me at first, but he dropped the hammer. He dropped the hammer, and that hammer is the fear of socialism. Oh, yes. That's what this was about.
Yes.
That's what this whole thing was about. It wasn't just about healthcare. Mm-hmm. It's about socialism. And I'm kind of beginning to think that he is in this Democratic field for a reason, and that's to provide some sort of buffer. I'm not saying who put him there. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it just seems as if he's there to kind of be he's there to kind of present the socialist boogeyman from the Democratic side. Because, see, it's always going to be seen as illegitimate and fear-mongering if it comes from the right. But if it comes from a Democrat, yeah, we might want to think twice about it. And maybe that's what they want voters to see. See, a Democrat is saying something about socialism. So this is almost like indirectly pointing a finger at one particular candidate.
So that's a good segue, because we're going to stay with the California Democratic Convention. There was another speaker that we wanted to highlight, another low-tier Democratic presidential candidate, and that's former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, who, again, we may have talked about once, maybe twice. I'm not sure. But again, he's one of these guys that are in the race, not polling well, doesn't have a tremendous amount of support. Can't say that he's progressive. He wasn't even for the marijuana legalization in his own state. After the fact, he was. Which is weird,
because you got to recognize where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that state has been probably, I guess you could say, making the most movement on that issue,
right,
more so than any other state.
But he was pushing back on it. He was not an ally in that fight whatsoever.
And that's the easiest issue to be an ally on.
Mm-hmm. So he made some comments as well. during this convention. So we have a short clip that we would like to show you from his speech.
But let me be clear. If we want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer. I was reelected in a purple state in 2014, one of the worst years for Democrats in a quarter century. If we're not careful, we're going to end up helping to re-elect the worst president in American history.
So another uncomfortable experience for a Democratic presidential candidate. Another brutal showing. There was a lot of fear-mongering there in that short clip. I didn't even listen to his whole entire speech, but there was a large amount of fear-mongering in just that, 30 seconds, 40 seconds of speech? Says that socialism is not the answer. So when he says that...
didn't explain, like what does he mean by that?
Okay, but when you say something like socialism is not the answer, you would... For you to make it a point of emphasis in your speech, then you would have to suggest that there is this large swelling of support for socialism, and not just on the ground level.
Actual socialism.
Yeah, actual socialism, and not just on the ground level, but by representatives, elected officials. That's what you would be. That's what you would be insinuating. Who is proposing that we turn this economic system into a socialist one?
No one. Not even Bernie Sanders.
Not
even Bernie Sanders. Okay, you all right? You all right?
So if not even Bernie Sanders is suggesting such a thing, why did you feel it necessary to fearmonger on the stage at the California Democratic Convention about socialism? Be wary of socialism. That's not the answer.
Because it wasn't about socialism. Socialism is code word. It's code word for Bernie Sanders. That's why they're there. I know I'm just going out on a limb here, but I don't care because these jokers are whack, so I can go out on a limb.
Yes.
But it looked like he was trying to appeal to something that is, I wouldn't say is completely grown stale amongst voters, but he was trying to appeal to this notion of electability. If you heard him, he said something about, I was elected in a purple
state.
Purple state.
Yeah.
What does that sound like to you?
A battleground state.
A battleground state. So, see, somebody, in this race who can't beat Trump. Yeah. Y'all gonna mess around and elect Trump again. And I'm thinking,
That's what he said. Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. That sounds just like things we've heard before.
Oh, yes.
That sounds like the sentiments that we've heard before. Yeah. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to go too far because we'll elect Trump again. I'm like, do they not recognize the irony in that situation, considering that the type of candidate that he probably would think is the most electable lost to Donald Trump?
2016. If we had went the route that they are saying that we can't go and that lost, we still would push back on the lunacy of their comments.
But we have an example.
But we have an example as to why... No, we have an example for you, which I guess the landscape that you're trying to profess, like that the best way forward is somebody running in the center. You gotta be this type of candidate to beat Trump. But that exact type of candidate did not beat Trump. A recent example.
See, and that's what makes it so ridiculous. I'm like, wait a second, you're telling us this as if we don't have a recent example.
Not 20
years
30
ago.
Years. No, the last
2.5 years.
The last presidential election cycle. The last one. The last one.
You all right? You all right? It's mind-boggling, ain't it?
So again, he no shame to his game as well. He spoke with the Hill also. This was following the speech. I believe it was just, that night this weekend. So he went a little bit further, saying that policies like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, he said they were, quote, massive government expansions that were just like socialism, and it wouldn't, I guess it wouldn't be supported by voters in swing states. So here's a quote for you as well. He said, quote, in places like Ohio and Michigan and North Carolina and Wisconsin, places we have to win to beat Trump, we'll be starting out 10 yards behind, end quote. So if a presidential candidate, no, not just the presidential candidate, the presidential nominee, the Democratic presidential nominee, if they espouse things like Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, they will be starting out
tuition assistance
10 yards behind President Trump.
It just seems like he has this very simple-minded idea about socialism, because that kind of was exposed in those comments. Mm-hmm. And just socialism to him means just government do things equals socialism. That's what it means. Government do things. That's socialism.
But that isn't. You see, this is the problem I'm having with this. I have many problems with this, but this is one very it's in the limelight. This is something that's drawing a lot of my focus. So there seems to be an effort to connect Medicare for All with socialism. Seems to be a purposeful effort to connect these things together, right? Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could say it even more than that, but I'm being kind of modest in saying that.
You're being very modest because it's quite obvious.
It's quite okay. So, if Medicare for All equals socialism, what does Medicare equal? Anybody have that equation? Because as I know it to be, Medicare is Medicare for All is kind of like an expansion of Medicare. So I don't see anybody, Republicans, Democrats, the vast majority of them, I don't see them saying, "Oh, Medicare? Oh, that's socialism? We got to get rid of that." I don't see them saying that. There might be some on the Republican side of it, we got to privatize that.
They usually used to say entitlements or something. They usually use the word entitlements.
But you really don't hear people really bad mouthing the existence of Medicare. So how could Medicare be cool and not equal socialism, but Medicare for All equals socialism?
That's the calculation meme activated. That's what I'm thinking in my head.
It's I can't get there. I can't get there. John Hickenlooper on that stage didn't say one damn thing about Medicare, which is currently an active policy in the United States of America. Has been for decades. Didn't say anything about, socialism is evil. And, so we have one of those policies right now in Medicare. We got to get rid of that because it's going to lead to our demise. He didn't say that.
Not only that, but a lot of these centrist and or moderates, or I'll just call them corporate Dems, a lot of them seem to always want to, I guess, provide policy reinforcements for the ACA, right? Uh-huh. I wouldn't call that socialism, but if you look at the ACA, and if ACA is not good enough, but if you look at the ACA, it's supplemental insurance, right?
Yes.
And people get their insurance supplemented when they can't pay for it. So wouldn't that be a slight form of socialism? According to them. According to them.
If it's the definition, it would
according
fit.
to their definition.
Yes.
That doesn't fit my definition
Right.
of it, but according to them, wouldn't that fit the definition of socialism too? Supplemental insurance, which is what we have now, which is what the ACA is, which is what they, him and Delaney want to push with the single payer system, still having, the insurance companies making decisions. Their existence still being, remaining solvent. That's what they want. Anything where the insurance company remains is cool with them.
Yes. You want to keep the same system in place. You want to act like you want to do what's good for the country and what's good for the people of this country and provide universal health coverage to everybody. That's what you want. You want the system. You want that type of system established, but you have no idea how to actually get there. And when there's a policy that is actually proposed, Medicare for all, that will do it, you say that equals socialism, even though it is the same as a current system we have in the United States of America. There's a part of me that would love to ask these questions to these particular candidates, John Hickenlooper and John Delaney. There's a part of me that would, but then there's a part of me that's like, why would I even waste the time?
Unfortunately, that's not your job, and it's the job of the media to do that. I'm pretty sure that individuals who have more experience than us, who have more of a history with interviewing political candidates, they're probably more qualified as far as understanding policy than we are.
Yeah.
But yet they don't ask something so simple. That tells me it's purposeful. That tells me they're just in it for the spectacle of I guess this presidential race.
Right. These two particular candidates are trying to do the work of the Republican Party inside the Democratic Party.
Like I said, they are there to provide a buffer, a very abrasive buffer within the party. That's what they're there for. They're out there blue dogging.
Yep.
I know you want to do it.
Blue dogs.
See, there you go. They're out there blue dogging it. That's a nasty Democratic sexual position. Blue dogging. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're blue dogging it, man.
All right. So we're gonna get off of the election 2020 season. We're gonna go to Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner. No. You know what? No, we got another. Actually, we got one more candidate to talk about. Pete Buttigieg.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
I forgot about Booty Judge.
Yeah, I did. I did forget about him. All right, so South Bend Mayor and Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg has a plan for the Supreme Court. And so he recently revealed this plan. His plan calls for an increase of the total number of justices. So he wants to increase the total number from 9 all the way up to 15. So the way that would work is that there would be five justices that are affiliated with the Democratic Party, 5 justices that are affiliated with the Republican Party, and then there would be 5 justices that are apolitical. Now, the way that these other 5 apolitical justices would be selected, they would be selected by the 10 permanent justices, okay? Because those other 5 would not be permanent positions whatsoever. They would serve a 1-year term that would be non-renewable, just 1 year. And the 10 permanent justices, the 5 Democrats and 5 Republican justices, they would have to come to some unanimous agreement about who these apolitical justices are. So, that's I guess it's an idea. It's an idea because we've heard about court packing before, and that goes back years, of course. There's always this idea about, hey, let's increase the total number of justices. There might be a conservative lean, there might be a liberal lean. If we increase the total number of justices, of course, you can overturn that. You can slant in a different direction. This isn't that whatsoever. It seems like it is definitely a fair way to do it. 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and then 5 apolitical. There are a number of problems, though, with this sort of plan, though. There are a number of problems.
Yeah, because we already established the fact that the first 5 essentially are going to be selected in the same way.
Yeah.
There are going to be...
the first 10.
Yeah, sorry, the first 10. 5 on each side. 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be apolitical. I mean, from I guess from looking at it from a historical standpoint, to me this kind of like shows his naivety a bit. Because again, that's where it starts. The first 5 on each side is where it starts. So it's going to stay there. It's going to stay there because if those 5 judges are picking 5 judges, what are the chances that the 5 Republicans and the 5 Democrats are going to choose apolitical judges? Like, think about that. What are the chances? You think 5 Republicans who have conservative or Republican views who choose judges, you think they're going to choose 5 apolitical judges? Hell no. Same thing on the other side. Do you think they're going to choose 5 apolitical judges? Like,
it's a possibility. It's at least like a shot in the dark that something like that could happen. Because if you're choosing apolitical justices, again, they would have to come to a unanimous decision to say that, yes, we all agree with these justices.
So they have to come to a unanimous decision for each judge.
Yes.
I don't think it would be that hard because we see that all the time.
True. So, all right. So one problem, you already mapped out one of them. But another problem would be that the Supreme Court is supposed to be apolitical. It's already supposed to be apolitical. So you would be getting, I mean, like, we already know that it's not apolitical. Like, we know that to be a fact. It's just not, I guess, written in stone that it's not that way, right? But we know it to be what it is. There are political operatives on the bench. We know that. So you would be, like, getting away the masking and all that. You would just say that there are 10 justices that are essentially political operatives. That's it.
You are saying, because if you don't address those first 10, what's the point?
What's the point? So that would, like, if that's going to be the case, I would say, why not just scrap them 10 and just pick 5 apolitical justices? Like, if you're going to put a plan together, then forget the political operatives.
Because if the root and the foundation is apolitical judges,
Yes.
then anything that comes from that is going to keep the courts remaining in, like, partisan.
So,
because that's how it starts. Hey, we'll get 10 partisan judges, and then we'll get those 10 partisan judges to pick 10 nonpartisan judges.
That doesn't make sense.
That's what we'll do.
The whole design of this, the whole, I guess, his motivation for doing this is to come to a place where the Supreme Court is apolitical.
But first, and let's think about this.
First, you have to make it.
I don't want an apolitical Supreme Court. Actually, I don't, because that's. This whole system is political.
It is.
It's not about it. It's not about the Supreme Court or any court being apolitical. It's more about these courts being centered on social justice. That's what it should be about.
I agree. So, okay, well, one of the biggest problems with his plan is that it doesn't seem that it would be constitutional. Because as we know, the president is tasked with picking the Supreme Court justices, and that is that's per the I have it here. That's per the hold on. Ooh, I forgot about that. Okay, yeah. So that's per the appointments clause of the Constitution. So it seems that it would violate that. So what we would have to do is have a constitutional amendment. Now that gets a little bit tricky because I don't know if anybody knows how difficult it is to get a constitutional amendment ratified.
That's like 2/3?
Yes.
2/3?
Yes, 2/3 of the states.
Woo. And then 2/3 of the
of the Congress.
The Congress,
the
yeah.
Senate, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
Senate, yeah.
We haven't had a constitutional amendment. I don't know the year. It's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a long minute since we've had a constitutional amendment. Haven't had it in our lifetimes. Definitely haven't had it in our lifetimes.
Hell no.
No. So it's been a minute. It would take it would be a tall task to do that. And Buttigieg, I guess he admits that that's the case. And so he says that that would be one of his pressing issues. I mean, that would be one of the last time. Let me see. It comes to 2/3 of a majority vote in both the House and the Senate. Yeah. Again, I don't know when the last one was ratified, but again, it's been a while. We haven't seen it in our life. We were not alive. But anyway, Buttigieg understands this. So what he is planning to do is, if he does win the presidential election, this will be a major focus of his from day one. Because he has other plans as well. The Electoral College, he wants to eliminate that, which I'm supportive of. But again, that would probably take a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, I think I think a bill just passed the House.
Yeah.
About abolishing the Electoral College.
Yeah. So these are grand plans for Pete Buttigieg. I'm not sure that they have a chance in hell of actually coming to fruition. It's not the if you compare what we have right now, the system that we have right now, to what Buttigieg has in mind, is it worse? It's probably not worse.
It's not worse, but is it groundbreaking?
Oh, no, I don't think it's groundbreaking. I don't think it's ground. It's very interesting how this.
I mean, I'm not even talking about like groundbreaking, like with like a backhoe.
No.
I mean groundbreaking just with a shovel at least.
But see, okay, but how would he even work with? Okay, let's say we're to a point where we have the system in place, and there is a good idea too about the how these other five, these apolitical five, would be selected. They would be selected like 2 years in advance as well, so that they wouldn't be selected for a particular case that's before the Supreme Court. You know, so you wouldn't know what they were going to be dealing with in those 2 years. So that's good. But the thing about it,
agenda attached to them being appointed.
Exactly. So that's good.
Okay.
But let's say you have your structure in place. You have 5 Democrats, you have 5 Republicans, and they're going to select their 5, right? What happens when one of them dies or one of them leaves the bench? And let's say the president is a Republican and the member to leave is a Democrat. Is that Republican now going to appoint a Democratic justice?
And like, if the process remains the same, does that seat stay vacant for 2 years?
That doesn't make a lot of
See?
sense.
So there's some hang-ups with this.
Yeah. There's some questions, man. There's some questions. Again, if you were able to make it work, I don't know that it would be worse than what we have right now. Might be better, but yeah, there's a lot of groundwork that would have to take place before this is actually, a thing. I don't know. This isn't the best. It's not the best, man.
I understand, like, this is one of those situations, it could be, I could be wrong, but it just seems like one of those situations where you have a presidential candidate that's trying to separate himself from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, with a dynamic
plan that it's kind of like something that no other candidate has dealt with.
And that's true.
And I don't think so. If they have, they may have mentioned it in passing, but there hasn't been some sort of comprehensive plan or outline.
Beto O'Rourke, he has called for 15 members on the Supreme Court bench as well, but he didn't go into depth like this.
He didn't go into depth like this. So I think that's what he's trying to do. He's definitely trying to kind of gain some steam by separating himself.
But does this do the job?
No, not for me. For a lot of people, it does.
It's good that you're addressing it, and I wouldn't be opposed to having more Supreme Court justices. I don't think there's a lot of people that would not be opposed to that. But your particular plan, it just seems that there's a lot that would have to happen for this to actually be the norm, for this to actually be the law, the process.
So the process to kind of change our current Supreme Court system and appointments probably would be harder to implement than most of the other policies that are being presented by the presidential candidates.
A lot harder.
Considering there has to be more consensus in Congress.
Right. A constitutional amendment.
And a constitutional amendment. That's way more difficult.
Way more difficult, man. We're talking about again, we're talking about decades. We can talk about, a century. It could be we may not be alive when this actually, comes. I don't know if it makes much sense actually talking about it. But we wanted to put it out there.
Yeah. It's because he's a presidential candidate and we have to cover all 15,000 of them.
Yeah.
Democrats, at least.
So it went up.
A change, it went up.
It went up.
At the beginning of the show, it was like a little 1,500.
Right.
But, you know.
Went up. Damn. That's you added a digit.
I added a couple of thousand. Just a couple of thousand.
All right, so let's get to Jared Kushner for a moment. Many people probably saw this interview. White House senior advisor Jared Kushner, he had an interview that was it was broadcasted by HBO on Sunday night. The interview was conducted by Jonathan Swan with Axios. And in this interview, there's the particular part of the interview in which Jonathan Swan is asking Jared Kushner about President Trump and if President Trump is racist. And so how Jared Kushner responds is very interesting.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has called President Trump a racist. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen him say or do anything that you would describe as racist or bigoted?
So the answer is no, absolutely not. You can't not be a racist for 69 years, then run for president and be a racist. And what I'll say is that when a lot of the Democrats call the president a racist, I think they're doing a disservice to people who suffer because of real racism in this country.
Was birtherism racist?
Look, I wasn't really involved in that.
I know you weren't. Mm-hmm. Was it racist?
Like I said, I wasn't involved in that.
I know you weren't. Mm-hmm. Was it racist?
Look, I know who the president is, and I have not seen anything in him that is racist. So again, I was not involved in that.
Did you wish he didn't do that?
Like I said, I was not involved in that. That was a long time ago.
The other issue that often gets brought up in this conversation is that he campaigned on banning Muslims. Would you describe that as religiously bigoted?
Look, I think that the president did his campaign the way he did his campaign.
He did,
and I think
but you wish he didn't. Do you wish he didn't make that speech?
I think he's here today, and I think he's doing a lot of great things for the country, and that's what I'm proud
of. Okay, Kushner?
You know, people kind of give Mark Zuckerberg a hard time for appearing very robotic and inhuman, almost like an android.
Right.
And it's true. I give people that. But I see the same thing from Jared Kushner. He seems like he is not like
human-like.
Yeah, he seems like an android. He doesn't look real.
No. Yeah, his emotions, his body language, if you can even, I mean, I didn't even actually see any body language. Mannerism, it's just so subdued to where
his AI responses.
Yeah, it's severely low.
It's severely low. And at first he started out with kind of maybe a statement of what he thought was fact. And he says
a forceful statement.
The statement is like, somebody who wasn't racist for the first 69 years of his life can't be racist now. We have to establish whether that is actually true or not. And I've seen this presented before, where he purposefully kind of tries to make this a partisan issue. Oh, it was only the Democrats that were saying that when he ran for president, kind of thing, which was actually not true. Mm-hmm. So he makes it like these bad things about, my father-in-law were only being, kind of spoken about and only put out there when he ran for president. So it's almost like, so they can't be true.
But these issues were just magnified, or actually past issues and current issues when he was running for president were only magnified because he was running for president.
That's what happens when you run for president or any public office. Your issues come back. That's just what happens to everyone.
I like how Jonathan Swan, though, pushed back on his claim that he had never seen anything like racism in Donald Trump. Again, that comment about how in the first 69 years of his life, he wasn't racist. And he actually thinks that the claim is doing a disservice to actual racism.
Yes, because, bringing up situations like this, it makes those actual racist situations become,
less racist.
Not only not only they become less racist, yes. I don't see them.
Yes.
They disappear.
Right. They transition into something else.
Transition to something else, yeah. Or
actual racism.
I no longer recognize those things anymore.
Right. They evaporate
because you're not bringing up actual racism. those other instances of racism that I actually never bring up or never actually recognize, those will just magically disappear and just go off people's radar.
But Swan did the right thing in challenging him on particular issues. The one issue that he brought up was birtherism. Hey, was birtherism racist? Kushner's response, if you could call it a response. Yeah, I wasn't involved with that, so I don't know anything about that. Yeah, I know that. I love Swan's response.
It wasn't about you.
I know that. Yeah, I know that. Was it racist? See, because as humans, he may not know this. He may not know
because
this.
he may not be human.
Yeah, exactly.
So they didn't. Maybe they forgot to program something.
Yeah, because as humans, you know that you don't have to be personally involved in something to have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
You can perceive things. You can be objective. I mean, you can detail your thought process.
That's like saying do you think, looking at this video, do you think this person robbed this convenience store?
Well, I wasn't involved. I wasn't involved.
Okay. Looking at this situation, looking at the video footage and the statements made by the police officers and the witness, do you think this was
5 different angles?
Yeah. Do you think this was abuse of power and police overreach?
I wasn't involved. Damn. I wasn't involved. I can't comment. I wasn't involved. Is that how ridiculous that sounds? I wasn't involved. So you can't comment if you weren't involved. Why are you commenting on the first 69 years of his life? You weren't involved in 69 years.
Definitely.
So what? Of course, this is the appearance of somebody that is caught. He's caught.
He's caught and he's a coward.
Yes, but he's caught in a very uncomfortable situation where there's no out here because, of course, birtherism was racist. But he can't actually say that. First of all, he's the son-in-law of President Trump.
And he's on campaigns.
And he's in the administration. He can't come out on an interview that's going to be nationally televised. He can't say that, yeah, it was a little racist.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? Nah, I think he could have flipped it. Again, all you have to say is yes or no. But if you say no, just give your reason as to why you're saying no. Just say, no, I think the president, my father-in-law, knew some people, and he thought that Barack Obama was an illegitimate president and was lying about his whereabouts. He was just trying to get down to the bottom of the truth. That's it, plain and simple. You could have got out of it that way.
But then I got to follow.
He could have said nah.
But it's okay. You provided a response for him, so I got a follow-up question for you. Okay, Jared. Okay, there were some questions. This is Jared Kushner. I got some follow-up questions.
Yes.
You said you thought he was illegitimate. You were listening to he was listening to other people. There were some questions, blah blah blah. Did you know that his mother was an American citizen?
Maybe I knew about it, but I am not sure if my father-in-law knew about it.
Oh, see, you're better at this. You're much better.
I need some oil.
But again, of course, birtherism was racist. We have talked about it at least several times. It was racist. And then he talks about Jonathan Swan. He comments on the whole Muslim ban. Again, I wasn't involved. Jared Kushner wasn't involved, so he can't comment. All I know is that he's doing great things for the country. That wasn't the question, though, buddy. It wasn't the question.
Yeah, it just looked like he was like a deer caught in the headlights,
yes.
Man. He was a deer caught in the headlights.
But we've talked about this before. Like, how difficult it is
to defend.
Oh,
but no, you know what? No, I'm not. No, we acknowledge that, but at this point, I feel bad for him. Yeah, no. I don't feel bad for him at all. But at this point, you should know how to do that, regardless of how difficult it is. You should have like
it should be a script,
a defending Donald Trump tool bag.
That's true. Yeah.
Like with you all the time.
You should know your shit by
now. You should know your shit by now.
It's 2019.
It's 2 years into his administration, into his presidency.
And he's been in the administration this whole entire time.
So you should already know what you have to say.
Why sit down for an interview? You know Trump is going to come up.
But you don't know what question's going to come up.
again, he wasn't programmed. Right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, and there are signs. I mean, look. If it, quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, then. I mean, if you're sharing, if you're retweeting neo-Nazis.
Yes.
If you're retweeting great replacement pushers.
True.
Like Lauren Southern, she pushes great replacement theory, white genocide. Right. So does Paul Joseph Watson. He retweeted them. He retweeted Tommy Lauren. So it's just like, come on, like you look at the people that he is retweeting and he kind of draws from.
If you believe that a particular judge can't be objective because they have Mexican heritage.
If you pay, I don't know, $90,000 purchasing front page ads.
Whew. About some innocent people that you would like.
Innocent people that you want to see actually put to death
right.
when they were proven innocent by the court of
Black
law.
people.
Black people.
Black people.
This is, yeah. Mm-hmm. People might think something about you. Just saying.
You push some false statistics about white deaths.
At the hands of black people?
At the hands of black people. Most white people are killed by black people.
People might think things about you. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, you can't put stuff out there like that and act as if the questions and the concerns are illegitimate. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
Oh, boy. All right. Is that... Yeah, okay. So that's pretty much all we had. We had one more, which... boy.
I don't think we've dealt with anything like this before.
No, not quite like this. This is foreign. This is... I don't think I've even heard of anything like this before. Not in modern times. I don't know that I've heard anything like this before.
I would say I have, but I haven't heard it implemented.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. I've heard it.
I heard the idea.
I didn't know. I've never, I guess, been a witness to it being implemented.
Right. And then, and I guess as a result, I never really looked into it.
Yeah.
So we're going to the state of Alabama for this one. Alabama, right? So recently, it might have been today. Maybe yesterday. It was very recent.
Yeah.
The Alabama state legislature, and it went through the House first, and it was just passed by the state Senate. So they passed they passed a bill that would require convicted sex offenders that involved a child that was 13 or younger to undergo chemical castration before they can be released from prison. Okay? So, the way this would play out is that whatever sentence this offender has, whatever sentence it is.
And they serve their time.
They serve their time and they are granted parole. Or they serve their whole entire sentence, whatever it is, right? They're about to leave, but before they can leave prison, they must, I guess, consent to being chemically castrated. Now, I didn't really know what chemically castrated really meant. When I was reading the story, I really didn't know because I know what castration is.
Yeah, like
surgical.
Like surgical. Like
yes.
Surgical castration.
Yeah, I knew what that was. So I'm like, hold up, is that what they're talking about? But no, okay, chemical castration. That's different, right?
So
look it up.
Some sort of process that involves like taking away some sort of sexual desire.
Yes. Okay. Decreasing the libido, just the sexual behavior, sexual intentions, motivation, and all that.
Probably can't get no boner.
Yeah, could be. So this would be something. This would be a drug program. You'd have to take some pills or whatever form. I don't know what form it's in, but you have to take some medication for this. So not only would the offender have to consent to take this medication, they would also have to pay for it. Like they would have to pay for it. If they don't do this, then they don't get out of prison until they do, I guess.
And most likely they're going to have to return for treatment. right? Because it can wear off, from what I've heard.
Yes,
It's not
yeah.
always, these chemical castrations aren't always permanent.
Right. So yeah, as we did a little bit of research of this, yeah, it's not permanent. It can be reversed if you are weaned off the medication. You just stop taking the medication. Yeah, it's. I don't believe it's permanent. So yeah, there would have to be follow up, and it would have to be constant follow up.
It'd have to be cyclical.
Yes, and this isn't for a given amount of time either. This isn't like, you know, like how you're sentenced to jail for 5 years, and then it's like, okay, but you have 5 more years of probation. This is not like, hey, well, on top of that, you have 2 years of taking this drug. No.
It's for life.
It makes no mention.
It's for life.
No, yeah. It makes no mention of a time period.
Limit. That's why I was interested in like reading the details of the law, because from like kind of from what I read, it just sounded very, very vague. You know what I'm saying? Because what's the age is what of the minor? What, 13?
Yeah, 13 or
and
below,
is it like intercourse, any kind of sexual contact?
So
that's what I was curious about when reading the story.
The way the bill is written, and it's a very short bill actually. It's only about like 4 or 5 pages. Very short, very easy to understand. And shoot, we can read from it right here actually. Let me pull this up real quick. So it states this bill would provide that a person convicted of a sex offense involving a person under the age of 13 years who is eligible for parole as a condition of parole shall be required to undergo chemical castration treatment in addition to any other penalty or condition prescribed by law. That's what it says.
So it's any sexual offenses.
It says, of a sex offense involving a person under the age of 13 years old. So we don't know what particular actually, no. The way this is a catch-all. This is a catch-all. If the victim is 13 or under the age of 13, then if it involves a sexual offense, and it could that could be penetration, that could be inappropriate touching. Man, could that be flashing? That might be flashing.
The bill wasn't specific.
No,
it wasn't
a sexual
specific,
offense.
And I'm not sure if it specified, I guess the age of the offender as well.
No, it did not. It just talked about
it didn't specify
after the sentence.
Yeah, it doesn't specify the age of the offender as well. It's not like focused on individuals who are 18 and up. Like with the way the bill's written, it seems like somebody who is 18 and does something with a 13-year-old will be seem the same as somebody who is 50,
right?
Who does the same thing with a 13-year-old. Just seems a little bit broad. And from also the way the bill is written, it seems like it would apply to women too, because it doesn't say men; it says all sex offenders, so it would apply to women too.
That's correct. It does not state specifically men. Of course, that's what you would that logically you would come to that, I guess, determination that they're talking about men.
Whether it be evenly applied, we don't know. But I guess that term castration is usually, associated with men, but it doesn't specify men.
So this bill, and it's known as House Bill 379. Again, it passed the state legislature, so it's going to Governor Kay Ivey's desk. I don't know how she's going to decide on this matter. I don't know that she's made a comment about it yet, but the vote was, I mean, this is the South. I know it. I know it's Alabama, and it's deep Republican territory, conservative minds, but still when you're talking about, and there's some more details that we haven't even got to about what chemical castration might mean, but still, when you're talking about the vote, it passed the House 72-16. Now, there were 15 Democrats that voted against it, and there was 1 Republican that voted against it in the House. In the Senate, 27-0. 27-0. So this has damn near universal support for this bill.
Okay, do you see a problem with this approach?
Again,
I've
the vagueness.
I've heard of chemical castration before.
Yes. But actually implemented into policy, like it becoming law for
something like written like this.
Yes. I don't know that I've ever heard that before.
So
And
it's
again,
not
what we're
just
talking-
so it's not just the punishment. It's kind of the parameters
Yes.
behind how or why the punishment is being issued, like the particular crime.
And like you were speaking to, the vagueness of this bill. It seems like it really is a catch-all because it could be as severe as somebody raping and killing. Well, yeah, it could be raping and killing as high as that, as severe as that, to maybe
Touching.
flashing.
I
mean, that could be a sexual offense, though. If you did that to a child, you don't think you'd be charged for it? You would be
Oh
charged.
no, you definitely be charged. You can. I've seen people be charged for that before.
So, I mean, would that be a sexual offense?
Could be.
It could be. I mean, because you could get on the sexual offender registry if you flashed a
Actually,
kid.
You can get on the sexual offender registry if you just urinate in public.
Yes.
Without anybody saying.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of, there's a lot of questions I have about who and what crimes, you would implement some type of punishment like this for. Now, when you get into the actual chemical castration and the effects of the chemical castration, then it becomes even more like, whoa, okay? So of course, like we said, it affects your libido, I guess your motivation to have sex, all of that. But also there are some other side effects. Other side effects could be cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis. There's gynecomastia.
That's probably that sounds like what it says on men.
Yeah, it's on men. Yeah, development of larger than normal mammary glands in men.
Yeah.
So not only, because look, I when you're talking about a crime that's perpetrated on a minor, again, they can be they can be awful, they can be heinous, they can leave mental scars, they can leave physical scars, no doubt. And so you do want a punishment that fits the crime. Now, you still would have to address what crime it is, like how many crimes are we talking about?
The severity of
the crime.
Yeah.
But then, as I know it to be in this justice system, when a sentence is handed down, you have your sentence and you may have your probationary periods as well. But now what this state is saying is that on top of that, we're also going to make you take this medication that can cause you to have heart disease and osteoporosis, losing bone density.
And see, it's not that I have a problem with like the chemical castration, because I don't. I actually don't have a problem with the chemical castration. I'm just more concerned about, I guess, how severe the violation has to be.
Yeah.
For that to be the punishment.
And I'm actually specified.
Yeah, I'm not against chemical castration, but that should be the punishment, and that's it. If that's the punishment,
Okay, I got you.
that should be it.
Okay.
But if you're talking about like the side effects, you're talking about additional punishments, which is like I said, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and probably a host of other things. So it's not just castration that's your punishment. You're being punished with all that other stuff. If that was just the punishment and the chemical castration, I'll be all right with it. I don't care. I'll be all right. I understand.
So we have a question about if it's an option that will take the place of the sentence. No. It is after the sentence is completed, and I guess you're in your probation, well, not probation, but yeah, probation period. You're about to leave prison, and you can't get out of prison until you agree to take this treatment, as they call it. Which again, like I'm saying, can lead to cardiovascular disease.
I understand the motive behind it.
osteoporosis.
I understand the motive behind it. They understand that this individual is going to be put back into society,
Yeah.
and they're trying to protect people.
Right.
They understand that they can't follow this person all the time. The person can't always be monitored. Honestly, I think I don't know. They can probably manipulate that. Because most likely when people have to register as sex offenders, they can't go within a certain amount of feet of like a school, a daycare, stuff like that.
Right.
Or playground or whatever. So I understand the motive behind it. They're trying to keep people safe. But one thing is weird to me is like they're making the person pay for it. But I don't know if that's kind of like low on my list of concerns.
It is.
That's really low
that's
on my
lower.
because essentially they're making a requirement to pay for a drug that could have other effects. Again, if the drug didn't have other effects, I'd be like, well, then you got to pay for that shit then.
Yeah.
I'll be fine with it. But since they got to pay for something that could possibly have other effects, it means that there's some other things tacked on to the stated punishment. You know what I'm saying? That's not actually stated in the law. Like,
really think about this. You're going to be forcing people that have committed some type of sexual offense on a minor. You're going to be forcing these people to possibly cut short their life. Cardiovascular disease.
I guess that's the punishment for fucking up a kid's
No,
life, though.
Well, hold up. But
that's the punishment. See, that's my more like savage side coming out. I was like, whoa.
But check this out. But if that's the case, if you want to go there, why not just increase the actual imprisonment for these people? Why not just make it a life sentence? Because you're giving them a life sentence with this medication. You're giving them a life sentence with this medication.
Hey, maybe again.
No.
Maybe again, that's my more savage side coming out.
No.
Maybe that's the deterrent.
No.
Hey, you fucking with these kids, you gonna have to take
But see,
this.
in what way? See, that's the question again. In what way?
Oh, what way? Yeah, true. Okay.
If there's this, well, whatever. If there's 18-year-old kid, they could be 40, and there's a 13-year-old girl or something like that, 12-year-old girl. He grabs the butt cheeks, right? That could inappropriate.
That could be sexual
That's
assault.
definitely a sexual assault.
Yeah,
No doubt it's sexual assault.
So it's not, again, like...
But should that dude be chemically castrated for that?
So with that should be stressed and kind of like how we're approaching this.
But there is no information in this bill about what types of crimes, I guess...
What constitute...
What types of criminals would get this penalty. It's just, like I said, a catch-all for sexual offenses, and the victim is under 13 years old.
I want to see, because I really want to see like what company is going to be providing these medications, or what company that these I guess convicted sexual offenders have to buy the medication from. I wonder what company. I'm kind of curious about that. What company you have to buy it from?
I see. I mean, if I can't see how this.
If it's in any way connected to any of the representatives in Alabama.
Yeah, that's true. But I can't see how this. I can see how this goes into law. You know, this is actually established as a law. I can see how that happens. I can't see how this would sustain a challenge. Think about the case, a convict, somebody that's coming out of prison, and they would have to do. Think about that case that they would have. Think about a lawsuit, the chances of a lawsuit that they would have. You're giving this person osteoporosis. They don't want it, but you're giving it to them. They don't want heart disease. You're giving it to them. You're mandating that they get it.
So again, they're getting more than castration here. So if what they get is beyond the punishment, there could be an issue. And what if they do come down with something? What if they do come down with something? Can they then sue the state?
That's what I'm talking about.
We have a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions here. I can't.
They do come down with osteoporosis or cardiovascular disease. Do they sue the state?
I can't believe how this bill is not comprehensive. There's only like 4 or 5 pages on this bill.
Yo, I thought it was gonna be like 50 pages or something. Not that long, but I thought there was going to be
lay it out.
I thought it was going to be a lot of levels to it.
No, it's very simple, and I believe it was the author of this bill, whose name is what is this guy's name? Let me see. I think I had it here. He's a Representative Hurst. I can't. Let me see if I have it here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have his name here. But anyway, yeah, the guy by the name of Hearst. Of course, he's a Republican. Well, I can't really say that. Of course, he's a Republican because the Democrats in this state seem to
Be conservative.
agree, with conservatives for many occasions. But anyway, he said that he said, "quote, I had people call me in the past when I introduced it and said, 'Don't you think this is inhumane?' I asked them, what's more inhumane than when you take a little infant child and you sexually molest that infant child when the child cannot defend themselves or get away, and they have to go through all the things they have to go through. If you want to talk about inhumane, that's inhumane." End quote. But see, I definitely have empathy for that type of situation. But again, he's talking about an infant. He's talking about an infant. This bill covers
13,
children
up to 13. Up to 13.
You're not talking about infant there.
So do you think this would fall under like cruel and unusual punishment?
I do.
Okay.
I definitely do. That's why I do not believe this would sustain a challenge in court. I do not believe that this would sustain a challenge. Okay. Governor Kay Ivey, she might sign it. She really might. Actually, I expect her to sign it. And I believe it won't go into law until they had some way of saying it. I believe it's in about 3 months. Something like that. It's about 3 months that it would actually go into law. So I expect that there would be a challenge before that.
I see people talking about it in the chat, but really what I don't see is actual solutions to the issue. There are a lot of people talking about it, but I haven't seen alternatives to dealing with criminals like this who are not going to be in jail. You know what I'm saying? I haven't really heard anything or seen anything. Sorry, I can't hear y'all. Thank God. That'd be crazy if we can actually hear people.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think this is it. Like I said, me personally, I don't think this is the way to do it. I don't know what. Again, we can have conversations about what better solutions there are. If you want to up the sentences, okay, we can talk about that. But again, we would have to get into the specifics of the crimes, though. You would have to get into the specifics of the crime. It can't be the situation where there is nothing but nuance here. You can't have that in this conversation.
So, okay, if there wasn't nuance, you'd be all right. So if there was more nuance. Sorry, there was more nuance, and there wasn't side effects. Mm-hmm. Are those the only two sticking points? No side effects, and it was more nuanced, but more specific about what constitutes sexual assault.
Right. Okay. So, in a situation like that,
not just what constitutes sexual assault, but what kind of sexual assault would lead to that kind of punishment.
Right. Okay. We would have to have a conversation about that.
Okay.
I think I'm with you on certain crimes, certain situations where if this was a penalty without without the side effects, without the heart disease, and the losing bone density, like without that, like for your heinous perpetrators like that, especially repeatedly, they have repeated violations for this type of behavior. Yeah, I don't think I have a problem. I can't be sure. I would have, there's a process to this. Of course I'd have to look at it, but I don't think I would have a problem. But when you're talking about a catch-all, just in general, any violator, anybody that is charged with a sexual offense of somebody that's under 13, anybody, no matter what the crime is, if it's a sexual offense, this is what you have to do to get out of jail. I'm absolutely an opponent of that. Absolutely an opponent of that. Nah, this is way too broad.
This is in Alabama, right?
It's Alabama.
Okay, so I was like, nah, Roy Moore is way past his days of cruising the mall. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's gonna move to Mississippi. He's not gonna just create a.
That's what I'm thinking about. Too.
He's not gonna create a dust storm. Hauling ass out of Alabama to Louisiana or to Mississippi.
He's like, what?
What? Oh, damn!
Gotta get up out of here, man.
He way past that age, though. I think he's way past that age. He probably already kind of, got lower libido already. He's like,
and he would stick out like a sore thumb trying to do that at this point.
At the mall?
Yeah,
he
of course.
was at that point.
When he's younger.
And when he was younger, he had, he was successful So and he kind of appealed to younger girls. So.
Yeah.
He's kind of grown too old to stay with that crowd, that age group.
We did hear that he might be running for senator in Alabama again.
And Trump is all for it. Trump is all for it.
I saw on Twitter that he said that
he kind of went back.
He went back on it.
Of course he did.
Yeah,
because he did come out. There was a Twitter post where he was like, he said, "I have nothing against Roy Moore."
Right, but there was another one where was saying that. I can't remember the words he used, but he was pretty much saying, Roy Moore's time has passed, don't do it, Alabama, or something like that, he said. So,
yeah, Mandy, I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to have a conversation about. Yeah, what about repeat offenders who don't have sex?
But just touches.
Just touch.
Do we cut off hands, he said.
Because essentially you're trying to fix the problem, or fix the problem based on how this particular person violated the law.
And so actually, it wouldn't have to be like with the way she's saying comparable. Really, you don't cut off the hands, but you render them useless. You render the hands useless.
So the equivalent would be like somehow.
I mean, they're just drooping.
Chemical amputation.
Yeah,
they're just like this.
You just walking around like you can't use your hands for nothing. Would that be? I can't get behind this, man.
No, man, she makes a good point though. That's a good question. Because what if all of their offenses did not surround penetration of sexual organs and just touching?
Yeah.
So how do you punish somebody like that who didn't even use their genitalia?
So
they
why
just
would
use their hands? So how would you punish that?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. There needs to be some nuance. Chemical amputation where they just walking around, can't pick up nothing. They can't even eat.
Because they've been touching too many booties.
But that's a serious question. That makes sense.
I can't see how do you pass something like this? How does this get past the legislature? They're like, okay, yeah, we're cool with all this nuance. Yeah, this is a catch-all. Yeah, you don't have to be specific. You don't have to be specific. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, good job. Yeah, Governor K. sign it. Yeah, K. Ivey. Yeah.
Jay Scott, you ain't making no sense, dog. Please, you just trolling. You just trolling like a mug. We ain't talking about innocent people, dog.
That's true. It's not about
it's not about innocent
but
people.
I will say that, there are some innocent people that do get charged and convicted
Again, that's
for these crimes.
That's why we're talking about the problems we have about this punishment.
Like I said, this was a crazy story that I hadn't actually ever seen it reach the policy level. I don't think I've seen that before. And it's far past the policy level. This is on the desk of the governor now.
And Lisa asked a good question. She says, how are people who don't use genitalia less guilty of an assault? They're not. They're not less guilty of assault. But if the aim is to prevent this person behavior.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about specific behavior.
Yeah.
So if the aim is to curtail a specific behavior, then chemical castration that renders their libido low and the use of their actual genitalia just cuts it out. It won't apply to somebody who just uses their hands. That's what we're talking about. They're not less guilty.
Right.
We're just saying that if their choice of assault just involves hands, which is probably not many.
But there's a lot of so just speaking about men. There's a lot of men that have unfavorable opinions about women and like to demean them. It really has nothing to do about wanting to rape them. There's a lot of men that don't rape women, but they objectify them. They will touch their bodies where, they haven't gotten consent to touch their bodies. Mm-hmm. So, again, that's not about the penis. That's not about
power control.
That's about a power of control. Mm. And so if you chemically castrate them, are you going to suppress that feeling? That they have this unfavorable opinion about women? It
might, but there's no guarantee.
I don't think there is. I don't think that would be the right way to attack that problem.
I think the way they're trying to attack it is they're trying to, I guess, eliminate the high they get from violating, I guess, the autonomy of someone who is very, very young. Mm-hmm. They're trying to eliminate, I guess, the gratification of it. You know what I'm saying? So even if it's just with the hands, the chemical castration does tend to eliminate, because even you get gratification from touching.
Yeah.
So will that gratification of touching be eliminated with a chemical castration? Mm-hmm. I think that's the question. That's why I was asked. That's why it is a good question to ask. What about those who only use their hands and not their sexual organs? Like, since it is affecting their libido, it's most likely going to affect, like, I guess, how they get off in general, even in their head. And you can use your hand to get off. Like, people like have a foot fetish too.
That's true.
So I mean, they get off by sucking on and touching on feet. They get off
just
that
looking
way.
at feet.
Or just looking at feet.
But if we're having this conversation, okay, we are just been presented this story. This was today. We just learned about the story today. We're having a pretty good conversation about this, attacking this in different ways and kind of highlighting the problems with something like this actually going into effect. You're telling me these representatives and these state senators, you telling me they didn't have a robust conversation about this and reveal that there are certain problems with this legislation?
Well, see, like, I think it's important for us maybe to highlight and maybe ask someone who actually has some experience, like, directly, because, like, I know that there have been people in my family that I've heard of that have been molested, you know what I'm saying, by another family member. And I've been around them, but I haven't really, like, engaged, like, directly with family members or people who have been sexually assaulted, maybe a few times. Like, me just hearing about it and them telling me about it a few times, I don't think that's enough.
Right.
But if you go up to somebody's comment, I think it's Mandy Sadowski. She says, my daughter's father molested at least 6 girls under 13. Over 2 years, no penetration. Got 5 years less because of good behavior. I think he was grooming me.
Oh, grooming more.
Grooming for more, but still. Oh, you think he was going to take it further?
Right.
Grooming for more. That makes sense. That's why I wanted to read that comment, because I don't really have any close experience with something like that. Again, I've heard people's stories, like, personally, people telling me, employees telling me about it, coworkers telling me about stuff, but nothing so detailed that I would have some kind of to make a statement that you made, Mandy. Now, what do you think? What do you think the solution? Well, I can't say what the solution is, but what do you think he should have happened to him?
So in a situation like that, if you're presenting me with the option of chemical castration, I wouldn't be, I guess, so quick to say off the table. You know, like I said, you're talking about a repeated offender, talking about multiple girls under the age of, I think she said 6, I believe, or no, 6 girls under age 13. You're talking about a multiple offender, somebody that needs to be stopped, no doubt, right? Is a prison sentence going to do that job? Is putting them on a sex offender registry, is that going to do the job? I don't know. So I think an option to discuss, at least discussed, is chemical castration. But like you said before, it would have to be without the side effects, man. If you're going to tell me that there's a good possibility that this individual gets heart disease, osteoporosis, I'm not good with that. I'm not good with that, because, again, if you're going to hand down a sentence, it needs to be a sentence. You know what I'm saying? We can't live in a world where this is ambiguous. We can't live with, he may get he may get heart disease too. No. It has to be a sentence. So if you want to increase the total amount of years this man spends behind bars, fine. Maybe that's an option. But the whole, like, possibility of heart disease and osteoporosis, I'm just not good with that, man. And I see grounds for a lawsuit coming in the future. If that's actually established and people are going through that, I see great grounds for a lawsuit. I'm not with it. Nah, I'm not with that. But like I said, this is a robust conversation we're having, and I'm glad that people are, having this conversation in the chat section as well. I just don't understand how it came to the point where state senators and representatives were able to pass it.
And so the focus is
so easily.
The focus is
without
this,
really like a lot of context.
Yeah, the focus is this particular law. I think there's like a few other states that have similar laws concerning chemical castration when these offenders are on parole, and the amount of time they're on parole varies based on their offense. So yeah, there are other states that do have laws on the books that provide some form of castration. But we're highlighting this one because it was so vague.
Yeah.
So,
True. So hopefully we will hear from you about what you think about maybe, everything that we have stated today or we talked about on this program tonight, and possibly the, this law maybe becoming law in the state of Alabama soon. So yeah, now is the time to get on the phone, call us up. If you have a comment, you have a question, we would love to hear from you. The number to call in is 669 900-6833. See, the first three numbers, man. The first three numbers, man. I'm never sure about it. But yeah, 669-900. See, 669-900-6833. If you would like to join the conversation, please do so. We'll set up the environment now.
Jay, bruh. I can't with you, dog. I can't with you. Jay. Oh man, for people who are not looking at the chat right now, for people who are in the chat, y'all see what he said. But people who are just kind of listening, Jay said that segment was nuts. See, man.
That one stood out. Like I said, that one stood out today, man. Again, at first I thought it was actual surgical castration. I was like, oh hell no, I don't care. Nah, I'm not with cutting mugs up. Nah, not in modern day times. You can do this, and then chemical castration. That's a very nuanced conversation to have, man. But how this isn't a very specific bill whatsoever. How the hell did it pass? How do you pass this? I guess you want to look tough. Like, hey, we're gonna do something about these sexual deviants, these people that are, committing these gross.
Quick fix.
Yeah.
Quick fix.
The big SC news on the last. You talking about? I think she's talking about Jamie Harrison. She's talking about Jamie Harrison. Jamie Harrison's running for Senate.
Yeah, Senate against trying to Lindsey Graham's seat.
Graham.
Yeah.
Is that big news? I don't know. It could be big news. I mean, Jamie Harrison is long-time Democratic, whatever. He's a long-time member of the Democratic Party. I believe he was the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party. Big news. I don't know. Not big enough for LTMB. Anyway, we have a caller. So we're going to get that caller on the line. Coming from the 253 area code. Caller, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey guys, this is Jordan, Montana.
Really? Hey, what's up, Jordan? How you doing, man?
Good, how are you guys?
Good, man. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I had stuff I wanted to talk about, and then that last segment just got me all rattled, man.
Yeah, that threw you off, man.
Yeah, definitely. So I had two things: socialism and the Supreme Court. Is what I put down during the show.
Okay. All right. What do you got to say?
As for socialism, I think I put that because people were talking about it in the chat, and somebody said that they were like, "Oh, government controlling everything is pure socialism."
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that's not correct. And then the other things, people always upset with Bernie Sanders and AOC about labeling themselves democratic socialists when their policies are social democratic. Right. And my comment on that is, their ideology, like what they believe might be democratic socialism, but democratic socialism, when you like effectively, gives you social democracy. Because if you try to implement socialism just purely through democratic means, you're going to wind up with democratic or social democracy, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we already have some evidence of that in our society. We just need more. Really, that's what the call is by many members of our government. Not enough, but people like AOC, people like Bernie Sanders. We need more forms. We need an expansion of these types of policies. That's what we need. That's what they're calling for. Socialism, that's not what they're calling for. But people are fear-mongering about that, and we disgustingly have Democrats doing the same thing.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I would say that some people were talking about saying that, like, a social program isn't socialism. But, like, if a social program is universal and the government is democratically controlled, that's technically socialism, because it would be the people controlling the means of production and for everyone, right?
Yes, that's what it is. That's essentially what I guess true socialism is the workers owning the means of production. I've heard some very prominent YouTubers misrepresent that as meaning workers or almost everybody is managing the company, which is not the case. It just means there's more of equal distribution of wealth because the workers are the force that's driving the capital. That's why the capitalists can make money. And so it's like, I don't see why the capitalists should reap all the benefits. Like one of my friends sent me a top 20 list of the highest earning CEOs. And I'm pretty sure, Jordan, you know who the fuck is at the top. You know who's at the top. Bezos. Mm-hmm. And he's at the top with 149 billion. Billion with a B. Bill Gates, 99 billion, 99.6 billion. You got Warren Buffett up there, 85.4 billion. You got Zucks up there, of course, and he's at 67.4 billion. You got all the doggone Waltons, it's like 3 of them in the top 20, and they're in the 40 billions. So yeah, Michael Bloomberg is 59 billion. So essentially, we have all this wealth that is essentially being hoarded.
It's top heavy, man. We have a top heavy system.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think that I just wanted to point to the fact that people's misconception that just more government, government equals socialism. It's just no. If the government controlled everything and it wasn't a democratically controlled government, then that wouldn't be socialism.
Right.
I think that's really what.
Okay, and then.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Get to your next thing. You go.
I was just gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah. So I put the Supreme Court because we were talking about that in the chat, and Moose had said something that I didn't agree with right away. She said that should we have our Supreme Court be democratically elected? And I was initially against it, but I thought about it, and if we were just because the only reason I'd be against it is for qualification wise of being educated in constitutional theory, being but if they were elected from a pool of the lower courts, I think that would be fine, right?
A pool of the lower courts?
Right, just to ensure that they're like a requirement for running for the Supreme Court.
So
would
then
be that you serve X amount of time in the lower courts.
So what you're suggesting is that people vote on them like any other type of election, they vote on the justices.
Right, but yeah, and then the only reason I would be against that is qualifications. So that's why that's why I put the stipulation as X amount of time serving in the lower courts, just to make sure they have the education and stuff.
And most of these judges, even in lower courts, are always going to have the education. Mm-hmm. They're always going to have those credentials. Like Kavanaugh, he has the credentials. I mean, you can't argue that.
No, you can't.
So, again, what would be the standards? If you're talking about Buttigieg's kind of plan, we judge what those standards should be based on his outlook, and that's being apolitical, right? So shouldn't that be kind of one of those? Shouldn't that be the premise upon why a particular judge was picked? Like
What?
they're
Wait,
apoliticalness? Yeah, how they rule, because it's
That's
about
nonsense.
being apolitical. Then the only way to see that is how they ruled. Like what's You see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, there's no such thing as apolitical.
Yes, that's kind of what we tried to point out. That's the thing. So it's basically whatever
Right.
Buttigieg thinks is apolitical.
Right.
It's not what we think; it's what he thinks.
Yeah, it's subjective.
Well, your idea, of course, that's more of a democratic process. Of course, that is a democratic process. That would also take a constitutional amendment, and the likelihood of that getting done, extremely unlikely. So, I would prefer that to the system that we have now, but again, I don't know how likely it is. Really, the one change, I mean, if I could highlight one change that I would like to see in the Supreme Court, it would be doing away with the lifetime appointment. I would love to kill that lifetime appointment. If we could make it so that it's I don't know, 4 years, 8 years,
At least 8 years. Like we can go 8 years.
yeah, as high as 8. Maybe.
As high as 8.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, there's a lifetime appointment. It makes absolutely no sense in the world. I don't understand how that's still in place right now. I don't understand why anybody would get behind that. Why anybody would choose to continuously support that. It's bad policy. It's extremely bad policy. I would love for that to go away.
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind it is the apolitical argument, but that's just nonsense. And, And for terms, I've seen people talk about, I can't remember what the years was. I think it was like 6 or 8 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they could set it up where each president gets 2 picks or something like that, or every 4 years you get 2 picks.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah. There's definitely better ideas than what we're doing right now.
Right. Yeah, that was my opinion before, and then Moose kind of spurred some thought in me about, maybe the Supreme Court could be democratically elected as well instead of appointed.
Yeah. Again, that I'm not objecting to it. It's just the likelihood of that ever actually being the case.
Right. It's just an idea.
Yeah. All right, Jordan.
Well, I'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Appreciate you calling in, man.
Mm-hmm. Peace.
All right. So we're going to go to the 860 area code. All right. Caller, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, gentlemen. It's Gabriel. Got 3 days.
What's up, Gabriel? How you doing, man?
Not much, man. How you been? Been a rough couple of weeks, but I live. I have a question for you, and I'm going to be quite short about it, but it is very interesting.
All right.
Are you aware of what the Bilderberg group is?
I've heard of them.
Heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I know they have they have gatherings or meetings and whatnot. Most of them are highly publicized, which is kind of interesting. But go on.
Yeah, except this year. They didn't announce the location until 48 hours prior. The other odd thing is in Montreux, Switzerland, where they held it, Stacey Abrams was on the guest list.
Who?
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams from Georgia was on the guest list, as was surprise guest Mike Pompeo.
Yeah.
And
Kushner.
Mike Pence.
Kushner's on there
excuse
too.
me.
Yeah, Kushner's on there too.
I'm just wondering, what the hell is that?
I don't know.
I mean, I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter ask Stacey Abrams at her official Twitter page, how was the Swiss trip? How was Bilderberg? Why were you at Bilderberg? What's going on there? Nobody who came in or out of that building. Oh, and also Kissinger was there as well as a keynote speaker.
Kissinger, huh?
I'll give you some gravity to how nice these people are. Okay. I just want to know what the hell is going on with that, because nobody's talking about it. We can't get any information on it. We barely even got a list of people who are supposed to attend. There was an issue with the German chancellorship. Nobody from Germany showed up this year. It's weird. I don't get it. I'm just asking you or anybody else if they have any ideas.
It would just be speculative.
It would just be speculative right now because
speculative, please.
Because I was trying to look for specifically. I only see one or two. Let's see. See, I'm looking at some of the sources.
David Petraeus was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the sources where it says Stacey Abrams was attending Bilderberg.
Yes.
I'm looking at some of the sources. No, obviously, it's not going to be a lot of people covering it.
No, there aren't. And the amount of journalists the independent journalists that actually made it to Montreux were in a handful. They were actually all kettled and thrown into a cell at the airport for a short period of time. You'll see names like Luke Rukowski. You'll see We Are Change. You'll see Truth Stream Media. These may not have seemed to be trustable sources, but these are literally the only people on the ground taking video, not doctoring it, just following them. That's all I'm saying. So take the sources for what they are. I'm just asking the question. That's all.
Yeah, like I said, I'm obviously Google is not always going to be completely accurate. So a lot of cases, it's who's breaking the story first.
Oh Lord, are you still using Google?
I mean, I use multiple search
engines. You got to get Ecosia, ECOSIA, Ecosia. You can get it as a browser extension, as your search engine. They plant trees. Literally, they have monthly income statements.
I've seen.
Use them. They are seamless for Chrome. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Way better than giving your money to Alphabet. But that was my question, and I'm going to keep it short because if there are other callers, I want to give them time.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
No problem, brother. No problem. Hey, thank you very much, and sorry I've been around, but I'll see you soon.
All right, Gabriel.
Bye.
I mean, the individuals that attend those meetings are responsible for, kind of most of the activities that influence.
Yes, they're influencers.
The media,
yeah.
Like the direction that governments go, carving up, I guess, land masses into territories. Long-range plans that go into 100, 200 years, how to, control the masses and whatnot. All that's relevant. My problem is, how is that relevant in the smaller scheme of things? If you're talking about the larger scheme of things, and you're talking about these global orders and whatnot, and them trying to stake out their power and their claim to power and making sure the masses are in control, I just kind of, I'm a little bit apprehensive about approaching that because I honestly don't see what any one of us can do.
That's where I would go with it too. It's a fight on a large level that you can't reach.
You can't reach. Yeah. You just be reaching for the moon.
Exactly. You can highlight. You can say, hey, there's something looks like some funny going on here, but
it might
what
be good
can you actually
it might
do
be good to inform
impact? Hold on. What can you do to actually change it, fight it, even you can raise awareness to it amongst people that are in your surroundings, stuff like that, but the media are probably not going to cover it.
Media not going to cover it. I think maybe it has some importance maybe in regard to how we make decisions as far as who we vote for, who we're looking at, and who to trust. As far as that, maybe, if you're looking at who's attending those meetings and whatnot, it's probably good to see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a second, why is this person attending the meeting?
Now
I'm going to give you the side eye. If that's true, we don't know if that's true yet, but just not specifically her, but people in general. If somebody's attending a meeting like that, then yeah, it does kind of make you give that person a side eye. And it kind of gives you inclinations about how you want to proceed with supporting that person or not supporting that person. But again, in the long run,
what are you gonna do about it?
What are we gonna do about it? And if it's well known about the Bilderberg Group, think about somebody going there with the public knowing. No, they understand that we can't do shit about it.
All right, another caller just dropped over. We're about to go to them. Let's go to 443 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's Court. How y'all doing tonight?
Court, nice to hear from you, man. How you doing? We're good.
Doing good. Do I sound good tonight? Do I sound all right?
Perfect, man. We can hear you.
Good deal. So I caught the tail end of the show right when you were talking about the Alabama castration law.
Right.
That's what I want to talk about, and I want to address your fear and why it's a legitimate fear, even though Mike is fully justified in his harshness at washing his hands of the whole thing. Basically, devil may care. It's a pedophile. I get that. It's a fully valid point, but I get where your apprehension is, and it's because it's Alabama. They're known for their cruelty when it comes to people who have mental issues, especially if they happen to be sexual minorities, religious minorities, or racial minorities. I could easily see them coming up with a chemical castration law for gay people if they could get away with it socially. Yeah. And that's where the apprehension comes from. Because who wants to see this? And this is how they get away with it's like, they go for the most extreme example, right? Pedophile. That's the most extreme example. Who is going to take up for a pedophile? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. But see, that's not where it stops. It starts there, and then it goes, well, maybe transgendered people should be chemically castrated because of their
sexual
inability
deviancy.
to accept their inability to accept their social normative gender, and it's where it goes, because the cruelty is the point with a lot of these people. You don't have to chemically castrate a sex offender. That's utterly ridiculous. We lock these people away for any amount of time, and you know what happens to them in prison. They have to be kept from general population so they're not killed or raped or both. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this is not everybody hates pedophiles. We get that. You don't need to be that extreme. But see, they make these extreme laws because the cruelty is the point. That's the whole reason they do that shit. And that's why you see that apprehension. Do I you know what I mean? Do I make sense?
Yeah, I like where you went with the who has support for pedophiles? Nobody. Like, this is an idea that, many people can rally behind. Nobody cares about pedophiles.
Yeah, nobody's going to be like, oh, yeah, these guys should be kept in pristine condition away from, any. No, that's not how you're looking at it. But what about, like I said, the gay person who all of a sudden, before it was pedophiles and everybody was on board with that, something happens socially, gay people are on the outs again. I mean, it could happen. Look at the current administration, right? I mean, look at how much LGBTQ rights have been taken back in just 2 years. So it could happen, right? What happens if they start saying gay people now can be chemically castrated because of their sexual deviancy? I mean, it used to be illegal to be gay.
Yeah. And you went to the extremes of it, too, because the representative that I believe authored the bill, Steve Hurst, I didn't have his first name before, Steve Hurst, Representative Steve Hurst in Alabama. Again, when he's talking about the bill, he's talking about these sexual deviants that have committed atrocities against infants. Okay, so if that's the extreme you want to talk about, why isn't the bill specific to addressing infants? Why is it going all the way up to children under the age of 13? Of course, they're not infants anymore. So they pick the most extreme reference point, and then they say, okay, well, that's for, everything. When of course it doesn't cover everything, but they make it that vague, and these politicians, these elected officials in Alabama were able to be like, okay, yeah, we're cool with all that.
And see, Gabriel 3G Base is like, pedos and LGBTQ are totally different. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gabriel. Anybody with half a brain knows that. But if you're an extreme right-wing Christian who thinks that all forms of sex outside of marriage between a man and a woman are just as bad, and you control the government and you set punishments like that, does it matter? Can you stop them? And see, that's what I mean. Like, that's where you get that apprehension from. Sure, you want to treat pedophiles with the most. You want to use the heaviest hand of the law possible.
Right.
You really do. But when you're dealing with these right-wing religious fanatics, these people would kill women that got abortions if they could.
They would.
Think I'm wrong. They would execute them if they could.
They'd stone them to death if they could. Yeah, this Alabama law is very uncomfortable to me. Like you said, nobody has love for pedophiles. Everybody wants to see them treated with the heavy hand of the law, but this is reaching way too damn far to me. And especially when you're talking about the lack of specifics.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
Exactly.
Completely against it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, and what if they branched out from that?
Yeah.
What if they, you know what I mean? Like, what if it was no longer about sexual deviancy? What if it was about religious objection or something?
True.
What kind of cruel and unusual punishment would they come up with for that? If they could get away with it. I mean, I'm sure, in the deep South in Alabama, there's not much love for Muslims. Yeah. What kind of cruel and unusual punishment could you come up with for those people? You see what I mean? That's why they came up with that shit.
You're seeing down the line. You're seeing down the line is that if this is actually established into law, then of course they're going to go forward with it. And since this is established law, we can do it in another area. And it'll just be like, okay, well, this is just an extension of what we already have on the books, and we, good Christians, we view this behavior to be, devious or deviant or whatever. So, yeah, that's an actual slippery slope. I think that's an actual slippery slope. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why we have the cruel and unusual punishment, clause in the Constitution, because, if you let some of these people go and do what they want, they'll chop your hand off for stealing a loaf of bread because you're starving. Mm-hmm. Happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Happens all the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You shouldn't chop a person's hands off because they're starving to death. And what's that? An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind.
That's right.
Right? There's reasons for that, man. There's reasons for the way. There's reasons for the ways that we punish people, and there's reasons why you can't just go and slap somebody with the most cruel, heinous punishment possible. There's reasons for it. Like when we started doing torture again back when we started the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, and they started authorized torture and stuff. Man, you open up a whole new can of worms now. You open up a whole new can of worms. Look at how American soldiers get treated if they get captured.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking if this was we're talking about this on the government level, on the state level. If me, individual person, finds out, my young child, minor child is abused by somebody, some adult, then I might have a reaction. It might be not permissible by law. I might have a reaction. I might, let's say I want to actually castrate somebody surgically. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be something that just occurs in the moment. But to say that, of course, we're not talking about surgical, we're talking about chemical, but still, you're talking about an extreme type of punishment that is, established in law. Like, the state is actually, given the stamp of approval on this. I don't know.
He's like, Gabriel's like, can you cast the first stone? It's not me casting any stones. I'm putting myself in the position of the person getting stoned. Right? Like, it's not about me going out there, can I cast the first stone? It's about, if you found yourself on the wrong end of the law, do you trust a society run by religious fanatics to dole out punishment for people?
And like we mentioned earlier about innocent people.
If you ended up on that chopping block, would you want them to decide your fate? If you ended up on that chopping block, when you just let the other person that you didn't care about, you vehemently hated, You let them do whatever they wanted to that person, and now it's your turn. What do you do in that case? That's what I'm saying. It's not about casting stones. It's about looking at how you punish people. What would happen if you were on, not like I said, you don't have to be a pedophile with these people. You don't have to be. There's a million different ways you can offend these people through sexual behavior. A million different ways. It just so happens that pedophilia is one of those things where everybody can get behind them on their cruelty against it. That's all.
But like you said but if we're just sticking on this subject though, to talk about the people that are innocent, that are in prison, and they could be innocent in prison for this particular reason. This is an extreme type of punishment. So if I'm against some extreme type of punishment like the death penalty, of course this isn't as extreme as that, but still it's an extreme type of penalty. And so the likelihood that somebody is innocent and would have to go through this, I mean, I think it's 100%. Somebody innocent is gonna have to go through this. So without the side effects, so without the side effects, like I said, maybe it's less of a concern for me without those side effects. But when you throw in, like I said, the heart disease, you throw in the osteoporosis, you're talking about significantly diminishing somebody's life, shortening somebody's life. That's too much. That's way too much.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you both. I agree with Mike, devil may care. But then I also know, I agree with you too, Will. It's too vague. It's too cruel. And you don't know if anybody innocent is going to get caught up by it, or you don't know if they're just going to, down the road in the future, start to use this punishment for other things that they consider to be deviant and evil. You know what I mean? You just don't know. Especially, like I said, with these deep South states, man, the cruelty is the point. That is the point.
Well, man, look, I'm glad you called in and talked about this, because that was one area we didn't take it to, the possibility that this may be extended to other areas. That's not something that we talked about. So I'm definitely glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because we always have to watch out for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's the fear. Like, why is it so, like, as soon as a court started, like, presenting kind of other scenarios, it caused me to ask, why is it so vague? Why didn't they take more time on it? Why isn't it more nuanced? True. Which leads me to believe they have kind of other motives for wanting to implement it that aren't necessarily clear. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it just does seem like it's kind of haphazardly put together. You would think that they would take more time, and if they didn't take more time, they want to apply it in such a broad way to affect certain groups of people. To give them an excuse to use it on certain groups. Why is it so broad?
And like I said, if this is the article says, if signed by Governor Ivey, the bill would take place, quote, on the first day of the third month following its passage and approval by the governor. So, yeah, in about 3 months.
So 3 months, 90 days. 90 days is when it would take place.
Yep.
And it'll probably, like you're right, it'll probably get challenged in court and shot down.
Yeah.
But still, that's what they're doing with abortion. What they're doing with abortion is they're coming up with the most extreme laws that they can possibly do, because they want it to go to the Supreme Court. They want it to go there because they want to see if a conservatively stacked Supreme Court would overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
This is their game plan. You know what I mean? Like, this is what they do. They come up with these crazy laws. Somebody challenges it. It works its way up through the appellate court, and then it gets to the Supreme Court, which is now stacked in their favor.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, yeah, it'll be fine. You don't know that. You don't know that. And the Supreme Court sets legal precedent. When they say something, it goes. I don't give a shit what was before.
That's true. That's true. So, yeah. It's scary, man. That's scary. Like, as of yet, we haven't reached that point, with abortion and, a case like this where you're really going to be changing the way that this society has been for forever, really, in modern times. It could get really scary, man. Anyway, we appreciate you calling in, Court.
All right, fellas. I'm glad you guys took my call, and it's a nice topic to talk about. It's very, like I said, there's a lot of nuance, man. There's a lot of nuance. You just can't go throwing the baby out with the bathwater, man. There's reasons for shit. Yeah. Reasons.
In agreement,
all right,
man.
Y'all take it easy.
All right, man. You
y'all
do the
take
same.
It easy. All right, peace.
All right, so I think this will be the last caller of the night. We have one from 617 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is Jay. What the fuck are you guys talking about? What is the nuance? Like I don't understand honestly. Like Court, like I love you guys. I love Court, but what the fuck are you guys? This isn't a debate. There's
All right, so where are you on?
Where
are you on it?
Where are you on it? Where are you on it?
There's no. You guys are like talking about, oh, should the government use chemical weapons on X, Y, and Z people? That's absurd. That is an absurd stance. That's like literally like one step away from fascism. The idea that the government can decide who they're gonna fucking chemically castrate. And you guys are talking about it seriously.
See, this is the same kind of like.
No, I'll tell you, this is the same discussion we had when you guys were talking about censorship on YouTube.
Wait, Jay, wait. You see, like, even how...
It's absurd. It's absurd.
I understand. But even how you're talking about it seems very, very black and white. Almost like the way that...
It is. It is black and white.
No. Listen. Kind of like how people talk about, let's say, socialism. They say government do things equals socialism. See, right now you're saying government do things, it's automatically bad. Again, you're saying government does something, it's bad. So then, like, you don't
chemically castrating people based upon what they perceive as a crime. You guys do videos about people that were unjustly committed crimes or shot or killed every week.
Did you listen
to the last part? And now you're advocating for
Did you listen to the last part of our conversation with Court? Did you hear the last part? And actually, did you hear the last part?
I listened to Court, but it shouldn't even get to that point. This should be a very black and white issue.
So
the fact that you guys think this is nuanced is bullshit.
Why do we have this show? We already have our point of view, and we come on this show to express our point of view.
And I'm telling you,
develop our point of view by talking about it to an audience. So this is a subject matter. This is a law that was passed in Alabama that we read. So do we just come on the show and say, let's not talk about it because there's no question about it? We come on this show.
No, you can do that. But I'm telling you, your point is bullshit. And when you entertain this as nuanced discussion, I'm telling you, it's bullshit. You should not even be entertaining the. You should not even be entertaining the idea of the government chemically castrating people based upon some type of.
Look. What's the most offensive?
It's disgusting.
What's the most offensive idea about this to you? Like, what's the most offensive about
chemically castrating people?
No.
So you guys think it's a punishment? You think it's a punishment, but you're ignoring the fact that this could have effects on their kids, their future generations, etc. This isn't some.
We mentioned that. What are you talking about, Jay? We mentioned that during the segment we talked about it. We talked about why we.
Yeah, because I brought it up in the chat.
No, that's not. No, dude. Do you know we talk about some of this stuff before the show comes on, and we weren't paying attention to the chat the whole entire time. Mm-hmm. Our position was that there could be extenuating effects to the castration. That's one of the reasons.
Of course, there will be.
Okay. Well, see, and that's one of the reasons why we were like, no, we don't think we can get behind it.
We talked about.
So what's the nuance? So what's the nuance?
We basically said,
why is it so nuanced?
Listen. You asked a question. Let me answer. Let us answer. We said in a perfect situation, we're okay with it. But we went on to explain how it's not a perfect situation. And that's why we have a problem with it. And we went through why it's not a perfect situation. We basically said, in a perfect world, in a perfect situation, I have no problem with that. But we do not.
Why? Why would you advocate for that? Why would you advocate for the government chemically?
Why do you advocate for the government to do anything? Why don't you just drop out of politics, Jay? Because the government does things. That's your entire point. Why do you advocate that the government does this? You can say that for anything. Why advocate for the government?
You're defensive.
No. Okay.
I'm asking you, why would you want people? Why would you want the government giving people chemical cocktails and you're telling me to get out of politics?
So the whole thing is about the chemical castration, right? Now, first, when we talked about chemical castration, we said that it's reversible, right? So that's one aspect to it. This isn't something to where it's like a permanent effect.
Why do you think it's reversible?
No, hold up.
Why would you even?
Hold up. I'm not talking about even the side effects at this point. I'm talking about the limiting the libido, the sexual motivation, all of that, right? It's to suppress.
Why are you okay with that?
If we're talking
why would
about,
you be okay with that?
If we're talking about sexual offenders, all right, there are some types of sexual offenders and repeated sexual offenders to where some people.
Yeah, like Emmett Till. You remember Emmett Till? You remember Emmett Till?
No.
What did they say about Emmett Till?
Hold up, dog. How we get to Emmett Till?
Emmett Till, you remember Emmett Till? He lost his life, right? Because what?
But see,
he
that's
was
the
with a
nuance
white
that we
woman?
were talking about. See, you're bringing up nuance now. Because we were talking
That's
about
not nuance. It says black and white. I'm telling you, you can't go down this road. You shouldn't even be introducing it to your audience.
Jay, hold up. The author of this bill talked about infants, yet this bill covers everybody under the age of 12. Now, why would you talk about, like, if infants is a problem, if your motivation is doing something about people committing these atrocities to infants, then why aren't you just focusing on the infants? That's one of the problems that we have with it. The other problem is the side effects as well.
Topic, you guys are out of your mind.
No, we aren't. Like, I don't understand how you think we're out of our minds. Because one thing is that we're in the right place in saying that we're not for this thing.
All of the things that you say you have a problem with, we actually mentioned during the segment. But you're sitting there saying simply because we're entertaining it, we're discussing it, we're out of pocket.
This was a 10-second thing. It's not okay. That's it. This is nuance. You got court calling in, talking about discussing it, maybe this, that, and third. It's not even an issue. This isn't. It's a
relevant topic of conversation, though, because a state has actually they haven't adopted it yet, but it's actually passed the legislature. That's why we have to talk about it.
And they're also trying to keep people from abortion. Is the abortion issue nuanced? Is the abortion issue nuanced? Is that a nuanced discussion?
What'd you say?
No, you guys are black and white on abortion, right? It's the same thing. So how are you black and white on abortion?
We're not black and white. We talk about
we're not black and white.
Do we ever just come on the show and say end of story?
No, no, because hold up.
So you're not black and white on abortion?
Are you for abortion up to 39 weeks?
Are you for abortion right after, like almost when it's coming out?
Because that's black and white. That'd be black and white.
Oh, that'd be black and white, wouldn't it?
So now abortion is nuanced.
When the child is in labor, when the mother is
in labor, a woman's right to choose is nuanced for you guys now.
No. See,
a woman's right to choose is nuanced for you guys.
Dog, hold up. What?
That's what you're saying.
So if the
you're saying a woman's right to choose an abortion is nuanced.
If a woman wants to choose to have an abortion at 39 weeks, then yeah, we have an opinion, and it's not a woman has a right to choose.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we should be for abortion, like while the mother is in labor, because we want to keep this right to choose intact that we have, right?
So
no black and white, right?
If you're pro-choice, if you're pro-choice, you're pro-choice,
39-week-old abortion. For you, you're saying you'd be okay with.
If you're pro-choice, you're pro-choice.
Dog, that's extreme.
It's black and white.
Wow. You talking about it?
You talking about everything is black and white for Jay.
You're way too extreme, dog. For real,
you're doing way too
way
much,
out there, man.
All right, ask the women in your chat if I'm extreme if I say I'm pro-choice.
If they're for I'm extreme. An abortion at 39 weeks.
Ask the women in your chat. Okay, I guess I'm extreme because I'm pro-choice.
All right, so the question hasn't been asked.
Women,
we only got about a minute left on the call, so we definitely
y'all got the floor.
Yeah, the women in the chat, anybody in the chat, is anybody for an abortion happening up into the point of delivery?
Up into the point of delivery, like were you in labor?
No, ask the women if they're pro-choice or pro-life. Ask them that.
Well, see,
don't try to come up with some crazy example to fit your narrative. Don't try to come up with some crazy weird example to fit your narrative.
Crazy weird example.
That's what you're doing.
You said
if the baby's head is out your vagina, if the baby's head is out the vagina, can the baby be aborted? That's absurd, and you know it.
Did we say that? We didn't say that though.
You just said.
Well, the reason I said that is because you said the issue is not black and white. You're saying we are black and white on abortion. That's what you're saying, and we're not. Because that's why we mentioned that.
So, all right. So the call ended.
We ran out
of time. But
you can call and yell at us next show.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. Look, that got crazy. To think that a conversation is not nuanced, like
we can't have the conversation at all, dog. Like for real. Like we can't talk about like what like tremendous downsides to certain laws are. We can't talk about that. For the most part, we talked about the downsides to that law. And the only thing that would make the law even remotely permissible is if we lived in a perfect world where there was, no side effects.
No. All right, so Jay wanted to ask the chat. I'm looking at the chat up and down. Everybody is saying, hang up on this dude. Worst caller ever. No, nobody's with you, Jay. You have an extreme position. That is an extreme position. To say that a subject is black and white, that just doesn't go for every single subject. That's why we had to have the conversation about this chemical castration. I think in theory, like you're thinking like, okay, look, this is a pedophile. This is somebody that is a repeated offender, and you want to do something so that they don't have that. Like, I guess there's a decreased likelihood that they would offend again. So maybe you want to do something about their libidos. Maybe want to do something about their sexual motivation, right? I don't really like that. That's not the thing that gets me like, oh no. Like I'm not in opposition because of that aspect. I don't really care about that aspect. If you're talking about like the worst type of offender, a repeated offender, somebody that commits these gross violations on children, I'm not really in that camp. But when you talk about the likelihood that it could be extended onto other groups of people, then yeah, that's a concern of mine. When you're talking about the side effects of implementing some type of medication like this, then yeah, that's where I'm in opposition to it. But the simple fact that you're saying that
and we brought up
black and white, it's not black and white.
And like in Court's call, what did he bring up? He kind of just like stated in a different way your exact problem, and we kind of co-signed with that. Yeah, like. For the most part, we know what we're kind of dealing with here, and we understand that they will probably use this in a negative way. And I think that's the problem that Jay has. So everything is nefarious. Everything. That's what makes it so egregious for Jay, because everything is nefarious. Everything has nefarious ends to it, and I can kind of understand where he's coming from. But what if there wasn't? That's the point. That's the point. What if there wasn't? And your whole argument surrounds the government doing this and the government doing that. And that's your starting point. That's actually not an argument. The government does many things.
And especially the government does many things to try to protect society, other people in society.
And that's, again, I asked in the chat, and I say, so how do you deal with individuals like this who are actually guilty of abusing children? I said actually guilty. So, like, I'm coming into it with consideration that there are a lot of people who are falsely accused, like Will brought up. And I think that sounds like something, you have a problem with too, Jay, is that it could be misapplied. And I think that's where we have an issue with it. It could be misapplied. And we dealt with that when talking with Court on the phone, because it could be misapplied. And I think that's the fear. And I wish that it would be approached that way other than saying, oh, the government doing it. Oh, it's bad. Just say it could be misapplied. I don't trust the government. The issue in itself of castration or chemical castration doesn't seem like that's your problem. The problem is the government's doing it.
Yeah.
You're not actually dealing with the issue here.
Like, it sounds like you were mad at us for having the conversation about it. And we're going to have conversations. And shoot, this is something that Court likes to do when he calls in on the show too, play devil advocate, right? So there's going to be some of that on this program. It doesn't mean that we're in the camp that wants to see it done, actually see it in practice. We arrived at the same place it seems that you're at. Nope.
So again, and sometimes there's a misinterpretation. So if I say, oh, I guess that's the savage side of me, is that really the savage side of me? Or am I just kind of channeling or tap into what a lot of people would have to say? It's like, hey, fuck these pedophiles. Is that really what I think? Maybe, maybe not. But obviously I'm trying to be a channel for sentiments that a lot of people will have, and sentiments that we're going to have to deal with That's the problem with your position, Jay, is that you don't think anything should be dealt with or talked about. It's not up for discussion. That's not how the world works. That's not how the world works. So if we go ahead, no, you got something.
No. I'm just actually responding to Jay. He's saying Central Park 5 would have been castrated, chemically castrated, again. But see, we're talking about how the likelihood that it could happen to somebody innocent is there. It's 100%.
We talked about that.
That's why we're not in the camp for it. I don't like you say. You're getting mad at nothing.
You're
at
getting
this
mad
point,
at
you're mad
nothing
at nothing
because we just said we're not for it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Jay, like I said. But yeah, a lot of issues are not black and white. And something like abortion as well is not black and white. Like what we know, like legal abortion right now, like for me, that's kind of black and white because we have, there's what's legal and there's what's not legal. So there's only up until a certain point where you can actually have a legal abortion.
No, dog, everything legal. Everything legal all the time, every day, all day. Every day, all day. Chopping heads off, just go ahead and suck it out of there when she just opened her legs up and she on the delivery table, dog. Just suck it out. Just chop it up, dog. Black and white. Pro-choice.
And then
every day, all day.
The request to get opinions from women and I don't know what women's gonna co-sign that, man. It's not black and white, man. It's really not, man. And it's not just about we can say we're pro-choice. It doesn't make it black and white, man. It's not black and white, man.
And even if you're gonna bring up abortion, is the issue people being pro-choice or pro-life? No, it is not. Because you can be pro-choice and sitting in your damn room and sitting in your damn living room and sitting in your couch and not engage in politics. You can be pro-choice all you want, completely. The problem is when people become politically active as a group or an organization or a political party and try to push that and legislate that position. That's when it becomes a problem. So I have no problem with pro-choice people being pro-choice in their mind.
Pro-life.
I mean pro-life, sorry.
Pro-life,
I have no problem people being pro-life. Yeah, I have no problem people sitting on their couch and just having pro-life thoughts and having pro-life inclinations and having a pro-life position based on their religious doctrine or their conservative beliefs. Right. That's fine. I know a lot of people like that, but there's a lot of those people who are actually pro-choice legislatively. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's not having the position of pro-life that's the problem, because having the position doesn't really do anything.
Right, it doesn't. It's just a personal decision that you made for you and what you think is, I guess, moral or right or whatever. That's for
when you try to legislate those morals is when there's an issue. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because most of, the positions that we have as Americans are various across the board and do not get put into legislation, though. Right. So I'm saying that's why it's not a problem, but it becomes a problem when people try to legislate their morality. So that's the point of being pro-choice. But being pro-choice doesn't mean I advocate and suggest abortion up until the day before she's due and shit. Sorry, if I got that position, that makes me some sort of
extremist.
Extremist? Sorry,
I'll be an extremist.
I'll be damn extremist if I'm against that. Sorry,
because the whole thing about what legal abortion is and what Roe v. Wade held is that it's up to the point where a fetus can survive on its own,
and that
you know what I'm saying? That's what Roe v. Wade was about. It wasn't about, hey, abortion, all abortion is illegal. Everything. That would be black and white, man. But of course these are nuanced.
It's never been black and white.
Never, man.
So abortion law since 1973 has never been black and white when we've supported that. That law has never been black and white.
No.
Come on, y'all. Come on.
Look, man. So just check out this robust conversation that we've had about this issue. All right, so of course there are, there's many ways of talking about it. And like we said, court, thank you for calling in and addressing the likelihood that this could be, kind of repurposed into, repurposed in another area. That's something that we didn't address. So there's many ways to talk about this. And for this to actually pass the state legislature in Alabama, you wonder how. You wonder how it got past it. How it got past it with minimal opposition as well. What are they trying to do in Alabama? it can't be really addressed this problem. It can't be just that. It's got to be something else.
No.
I think Corey's
that
onto
sounds
something.
that sounds nuanced to me.
Yeah.
Can't have that position. Sounds nuanced. Again, and we talked about that too.
Yeah. So anyway, definitely we'll keep an eye on that because I definitely want to see what Kay Ivey does. She's an extreme conservative, no doubt. So I expect that she will sign it. She signed the the most restrictive ban on abortion in Alabama recently. So this would be par for the course. I mean, this would be right in line with her thinking, I think. Some kind of extreme position like this. So I think that she will. So we'll just see.
Yeah, I think I don't think I was gaslighting. I don't think you know what gaslighting means. You need to look up the definition of gaslighting. I just think you threw out a word. You may have, meant to use another word, but gaslighting is not what I was doing. Usually gaslighting involves me denying something happened to you and making you feel as if it's your fault. Or something, like making you feel like you're crazy or something. I'm not doing that. I just got opinions, man. I think we, for the most part, we agree on most things, so I don't know why you getting all bent out of shape. It's like your feelings hurt on this one issue. But.
But anyway, that's what we got for the show, man. Didn't know that one issue was going to be, the thing that we talk about actually the most on the program. Didn't know that. That was just going to be just a little ad.
Like I said, I still haven't heard it, but I do really wish more people, including Jay, if you are still watching the show, what is your solution? That should be the talks instead of us arguing about this thing being a legitimate conversation at all. Like you said, what do we do with people in society? Maybe we should have that conversation. Maybe that's a more fruitful conversation and a more constructive conversation to have rather than us going back and forth about black or white or, getting involved in a back and forth that's not taking us anywhere. And just throwing shit out there without taking consideration for a conversation that needs to be had. Like you said, black and white, we shouldn't even be talking about it. Like maybe we should be talking about what should be done with people like that, that are in society. That should be that. Maybe that's a question. Do you have any suggestions about that? You know what I'm saying? Because that connection or that conversation is connected to this subject. Like, what should be done with those people? Nothing. Whatever is done is going to be done by guess who? Government. And the government is a kind of a group of people that is formed when citizens vote. So when you say the government, what are you actually saying? People voted them in. So that's why I don't like when people are vague when they say, oh, the government's doing this and the government's doing that. Yes, that's true, but people are voting them in, so really it's people doing it. So my question is, what do we do with individuals who actually do have that problem? If we're going to talk about, it's a legitimate conversation to have, if it's centered on the possibility of people who are innocent or being abused, yes, we can talk about that. But there are actually people who are serial abusers. Mm-hmm. There are actual people in society who have a problem and they abuse kids sexually.
Repeatedly.
What do we do about those people, Jay?
And Jordan, he asked before, I know minutes ago, he asked if this was something that was optional. And we said no, but now he's proposing that as an option. What if it was an option instead of a sentence for somebody?
Now, Mr. Gaillard, isn't that something we said was a problem, that it was not optional?
Yes, we did.
But did you hear that?
No.
You didn't. Were you paying attention to it, or you already took your position and didn't hear anything we had to say? So if it's optional, would you be for it?
That's true. Yeah.
Because that's one of the main problems we highlighted, that it was the state making them do it.
Yeah, making them go through the
sentence, wasn't that a part of
and the forced medication?
Wasn't that a part of your I wouldn't say your larger argument, but your entire argument that the state is forcing this upon people? That is a point that we brought up, and that's a point that we said we had as an issue we had with the law, because it's forcing this upon people. That is the central part of your aggravation, man. The central part of your aggravation is what we agreed on about the story. But then you didn't hear that because you just, it's like, I guess it became white noise to you.
I mean, and that would be, look, that would be something to discuss if it was actually an option, like Jordan is saying, someone who sees it as a better option than like life in prison or a significant prison sentence. I mean, that it would be on them, I guess.
And
I don't know.
And the thing is, I don't agree with you guys calling I guess y'all getting caught up in the moment and because saying like Jay Scott is the worst caller ever. Really, the only thing that Jay Scott did was be loud.
Yeah,
that's really
exactly.
the only thing he did.
He was passionate about his position.
Yeah, he did. Like this, that mug was just loud. I mean, the mug didn't call anybody out their name.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? The mug wasn't being condescending. True. The mug wasn't being antagonistic. We just had a difference in opinion or argumentative difference. That's it. True. And the only thing about the call was he was loud. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, we still got love for you, Jay, man. No doubt, man. This is just an issue. It got heated, man. That's it, man. But no, we still got love for you, man. I see somebody trying to call in, Ben, I believe. The call-in portion is over. Please try to, get in here earlier. Usually we start taking calls around like 9, and it lasts for about 30, 45 minutes. So, if you definitely want to give us a call, just pay attention to that time. And we'd love to hear from you on Thursday. So, special shout out to all of our callers tonight, though. Gabriel, Court, Jay, Jordan as well. Yeah, our first caller, Jordan.
And Gabriel, like I did look, I went to the, if you're still watching, Gabriel, I did go to, I think the Bilderberg's website. It's like bilderberg.org or whatever. It came up regardless of what search engine. It's a little bit different results, but for the most part, it's kind of the same. I don't know how to judge it yet. I have to do a little bit more research on it. But yeah, it looked like she was invited. Whether she actually went, she's on the list. Stacey Abrams. See a lot of talk on Twitter, but I don't know if anybody is flooding her Twitter account. Of course, Michael Tracy posted something about it, and I do see a lot of, and this is my problem with information like this, Gabriel. It's good information when you're open-minded. Unfortunately, Americans aren't open-minded, meaning like they still retain their same political leanings that they did before the information came to them. And so a lot of the reactions I'm really not liking. If you're going to talk about this, people are going to talk about this in a balanced way. They have to be honest. And there's a few of the Twitter profiles I see highlighting it are being very suspect with how they're dealing with it. I'll just say that. Like they're doing a lot of racist talk, racial talk, which is unnecessary if you're just talking about world domination. That has no place in it. If you're trying to be honest, there's no place for that. That's why I have a problem when people receive information, because they receive it with a particular mindset that doesn't really their own prejudices already. Yeah. That's why I don't think that in most cases when we come across information that's supposed to be liberating, it doesn't do shit. Whether it be like the arrest of Julian Assange, something like that.
In the super chat tonight, Gear Randon, thank you very much, Gear. We have Trudy with a message, Bernie Tulsi for justice and Tulsi Pence for, I guess, Tulsi Pence debates, and a smiley face. Tulsi Pence debates. Oh, okay, I get it now. Okay. The vice presidential debates.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Pence. Okay, all right, I got you. Yeah, okay. Mandy Sadowski, good callers, good show. Appreciate that, Mandy. Thank you very much, all of you. Everybody that participated in the chat tonight, thank you very much. All of our patrons on patreon.com, thank you very much for contributing to our program every month. I think that's all we got here. Next show is going to be on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope that you join us on that night. I think that's all we got.
That's all we got. Yeah, Gabriel. See, I trust people like Gabriel, but unfortunately, most people do not enter that realm with an open mind or even mind or a clean slate. Talking to Gabriel and on previous calls and him bringing up things, and he seems a little bit more. He's more mature as well. So I can trust him with that kind of information. But if you look at some of these Twitter handles and some of these responses, there's some people who are intentionally leaving out Mike Pompeo. Now, why would you do that? And some of the websites who are pro-Trump are purposely leaving out Pompeo. I went to pro-Trump sites that highlighted this, and they're purposely leaving out Pompeo. Some of them are leaving out Pompeo and Kushner. Some of them mention Kushner, but see, since he's not a prominent figure, Pompeo is more like he actually is the Secretary of State. They're leaving him out. Now, why would you leave him out? Why would you highlight Stacey Abrams and not highlight Mike Pompeo? So again, people take information like this and they use it to propel in the agenda that they already had. That's one of the reasons why I have a problem with, talking about the larger institutions that govern us that are not situated just here in the United States, because people take it and they just run with their own little partisan agenda and shit.
L-Train said the worst caller ever was RBR Radio.
Thank you. See, L-Train know what's up.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. Agree with you on that. Woo! It wasn't that he was. It wasn't just that he was combative too. It was that he was nonsensical and combative.
Yo, the Joker was not making any sense. I mean, the Joker did not make any sense. The thing is, like, if we disagree with somebody, at least we understand where they're coming from. Yeah. Even if we disagree with them, so we know where to go next. With RBR,
oh my gosh, man,
it was like
that dude was on another planet, man.
He was like a argumentative gnat.
Yeah, he was all
you know
over
how
the place.
Gnats are like, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like, what are you
gosh.
talking about?
If you didn't see that program, I don't know what I can't remember what month it happened in. I think it was last year.
Shut up, Lisa. We will not be talking about that. Not even addressing that, yo. I mean, maybe privately, but
yeah, I don't know which episode that was with the RBR Radio, but actually it was 2. He called in.
He called in twice. At least twice. We gotta find
the
that.
First one. Yeah.
We gotta find that.
That's when I had.
Oh yeah, that's when he blew up.
Yeah, I had to.
Was your blow up with him worse than my blow up with Silverback or Silverlight or Silver? I don't know.
Yours was more wordy. I was
really?
Yeah, because mine was short. I was like, man, look. mine was pretty short, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta find that and upload it. Yo, that was ridiculous. Man, that was it was almost like, should we hang up?
Yeah.
Or is this entertainment, has an entertainment value to it? I was like, should we hang up? I was like, man, it's almost like, it's like watching a train wreck.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not gonna hit me, but I'm like, man, this is gonna be crazy. Like, whatever it hits, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
So you just want to see it.
He went too far for me on that first one. That I had to. Exactly, L-Train.
Yeah,
man.
pretty much.
It's pretty short and to the point, man. It's like, hold on, nah, you ain't gonna do this on my show, dog. Nah, hell no, nah, you ain't gonna do this now. But anyway, man. Yeah, Moose Gal, I think several times in the chat you talked about the what you sent us about the campaign. The one that's running against. Who's he running against again? Is it Pelosi? No.
No. Damn.
I think it is running against
It might
Pelosi.
be. No. You might be right.
I think it is running against Pelosi. Yeah. Yeah, you sent us that information. Yeah, we did. We got it. We definitely got it. There was something else that somebody said. I think that I wanted to just highlight for a second. I can't remember if. Oh yeah, Jordan talking about the the LTMB fan club on Discord, putting those links out there. There's a community, off-site that you can go to and chat it up for the people that watch the show. If you want to go ahead and click on that link, I'm sure you can find it multiple times throughout the stream. Jordan posted it once again, so. Definitely, if you like to go on there and chat with, the people that you communicate with on the chat on the stream, you can do that. So we will see you all in just a couple nights. Same time, like I said, on Thursday night. Until then, everybody be good. Be safe. And, that's it, man. Peace out.